Chapter 785. This was the third time Lu Ping had felt this kind of throbbing in his bloodline. This was a kind of bloodline suppression. The essence of all the cultivators in this world was contained in their bloodline. The quality of the bloodline could directly determine a cultivator's aptitude. That was why monsters were divided into top-level monsters with the direct bloodline of the seventh patriarch, as well as high-level, mid-level, and low-level monsters. This situation was not too obvious in the human race, because everyone would have 7 kinds of bloodlines of the seventh patriarch. Therefore, although there was a difference in aptitude between human cultivators, in terms of bloodline alone, the gap between them was not as big as that of monsters. Therefore, it was rare for human cultivators of the same level to have bloodline suppression. This kind of situation mostly appeared between high-level and low-level cultivators. However, this situation had only happened to Lu Ping 3 times. The quality of Lu Ping's bloodline was originally not considered good. However, along the way of cultivation, perhaps because of the North Sea wave listening technique, or because of his unknown identity and knowledge, Lu Ping had not only integrated 3 kinds of water attribute Jiao bloodline when he was in the blood condensation stage, but also merged 2 bloodlines when he was in the core forging stage. Perhaps it was because of this that even when Lu Ping faced a Dharma adept like Celestial Phenomenon Laozu, he could not suppress Lu Ping through his bloodline. The real reason why Lu Ping felt this kind of throbbing in his bloodline was when he obtained the Bloodstone in the Fallen Ruins, when he saw the Longhuai ancestor, and when Lu Ping's bloodline captured this kind of mysterious power in the land of the river source. However, now that Lu Ping was in front of him, this giant spirit beast that combined the green sea snake, the primordial giant crocodile, and the Pegasus actually made Lu Ping feel this kind of throbbing. However, what puzzled Lu Ping was how this giant spirit beast that was formed by the convergence of spirit energy could make his bloodline react. Just as the spirit beast in front of him approached, the strange dragons on the surface of the Jindan in Lu Ping's core space raised their heads and roared silently in the direction of the giant beast. Lu Ping suddenly felt his aura expand. Under the impact of the giant beast's aura, he was actually able to resist it unscathed. It was just a spirit beast at the peak of the core forging stage. Although Lu Ping knew that the monster in front of him was much stronger than the 3 spirit beasts he encountered before, he still had confidence in himself to win. The only thing he was suspicious about was the appearance of this spirit beast. Could it be a dragon? Or, more boldly, could this be the appearance of Jiao Daoren when he became a true spirit? It was not unreasonable for Lu Ping to think this way. After all, the source of the river was the place where Jiao Daoren fell from the sky and smashed into the ground. All the mysteries in the sacred lake must be related to one of the 7 saints of the Creator of the heavens. Before Lu Ping's strange thoughts could disperse, he saw a trace of blood red in the eyes of the giant beast. Moreover, this trace of blood red appeared from nothing and became more and more intense. Where did this red come from? When did the condensed spirit energy have color? Lu Ping's eyes flashed as he cast the 3 Pure One's true pupils to the extreme. A green light shone from the giant beast's eyes and extended to its back. Suddenly, thin red lines could be seen moving inside the giant beast's body and gathering in its eyes. When he looked at the source of these red threads, Lu Ping's heart suddenly sank. They were actually emitted from the heart of the giant beast. Could it be that the heart of this giant beast was not condensed from spirit energy? But before Lu Ping could think further, the giant beast in front of him had already let out a long roar. It raised its left paw and let out 5 clanging sounds of metal clashing. 5 rays of cold light intertwined with each other as it moved forward at an extremely fast speed, forming a huge wave of cold light that surged forward. Lu Ping sucked in a breath of cold air and exclaimed, "Thousand Snow Pile Sword?" The dual flying swords in his hands did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. They also turned into a rolling sword wave and collided with the tide that was sweeping over. Like fireworks exploding in the sky, countless sparks exploded between Lu Ping and the giant beast in an instant. The 2 lights retreated, and they were actually evenly matched. Lu Ping's expression became more and more serious. The strength of the giant beast in front of him clearly surprised Lu Ping. However, The divine ability that the giant beast used with its sharp claws just now was indeed of the same lineage as the Thousand Snow sword art. Although there were too many differences between the two, Lu Ping was sure that there must be a connection between the two. A series of 5 sharp claws quickly stabbed. Although it did not use a great divine ability, Lu Ping could still see the oppressive momentum of the raging waves slapping shore sword art from this round of rapid attacks. The faintly autumn waters sword turned into waves and counterattacked the series of attacks. Instead, he used the raging waves slapping shore sword art. Lu Ping wanted to seize control of the battle from the hands of the giant beast. Perhaps it saw that the divine ability formed by the sharp claws could not gain an advantage over Lu Ping. A thick white fog rose around the giant beast's body. Its entire body was hidden in the white fog, and it would only reveal some of its claws when it attacked Lu Ping. It felt like its head could be seen, but its tail could not be seen. Lu Ping simply drew down the heavenly river from the sky and used the great river flow's east sword art. The 2 flying swords turned into a surging river that rushed into the white fog and wreaked havoc, leaving the giant beast with nowhere to hide. The white fog exploded, and the entire heavenly river actually collapsed. The 2 flying swords were flung away by the giant beast's long tail, and then it struggled out of the ruptured heavenly river. Its figure changed rapidly, and under Lu Ping's widened gaze, it gradually turned into a human form. Lu Ping looked at the slender, middle-aged man in front of him. His face was handsome, but also evil. His hair and beard were mixed with wisps of white frost, but it made him stand out even more, and his temperament was extraordinary. Who was this person? Could it be that the only disappointing thing about him was that pair of bloodshot eyes? Although they revealed killing intent and ruthlessness, they appeared dull and lifeless. However, from Lu Ping's point of view, the most eye-catching thing about this elegant middle-aged man should be his eyes. Half of the man's figure and temperament should be in his eyes. However, even without his eyes, this person's elegance had already made Lu Ping fall for him. If this person's real body was in front of him, it was unknown what kind of peerless elegance Lu Ping would have experienced. Just as the giant beast turned into a human form, a strange and bewitching power emanated from the person in front of him. However, in Lu Ping's divine sense, a small banner gently swayed. Lu Ping's vision immediately cleared up. He saw the white fog that had previously exploded gather in the person's hand to form rolling waves. The waves rolled up in midair, and then formed a vortex that rushed towards Lu Ping. What the hell? How could this giant beast's supernatural power be inextricably linked to the 12 orthodox techniques of the North Sea? Could it be that this spiritual Qi giant beast was really formed by Jiao Daoran imitating his own image in the past? Lu Ping displayed the water manipulation technique, and the momentum of the rolling wave of spiritual Qi suddenly stopped. Lu Ping also had the idea of playing tricks. Since the giant beast in front of him, whether it was in human form or monster form, the supernatural power that the giant beast displayed was more or less related to the 12 orthodox techniques that Lu Ping cultivated. Then Lu Ping might as well display the corresponding methods and counter each move. However, what Lu Ping did not notice was that every time Lu Ping displayed the corresponding supernatural power, although it was launched later, he was often able to control the giant beast first. At the very least, he was able to equalize the situation in a situation where the giant beast took the initiative to attack. However, just as Lu Ping used the water manipulation technique to resist the opponent's attack, he saw that the originally calm wave of spiritual Qi suddenly formed a huge whirlpool. In the midst of Lu Ping's scream, a huge wave appeared out of thin air and fiercely slapped Lu Ping back dozens of yuan, almost hitting the stone wall. The water manipulation flag above Lu Ping's head was on the verge of collapse, and the cloud-light 5 elements robe formed a huge colorful cloud cushion behind Lu Ping, counteracting the impact of the huge wave on Lu Ping. The blue wave's secret art could actually be used like this, but it was not as if he did not have a backup plan. Lu Ping suffered a hidden loss. His heart was filled with hatred, but his hands were not slow. His hands formed a hand seal, and from the huge wave of spiritual Qi, a strange flood dragon formed by sword light suddenly drilled out. It had the body of a snake, the legs of a crocodile, the tail of a fish, the antlers of a deer, and the ears of a cow. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it flew towards the man transformed from the strange flood dragon in front of him. Lu Ping originally did not intend to use the blue flood dragon sea disturbance secret art with the flowing stream sword, but in a hurry, he could not display a more powerful supernatural power, so he could only use the blue flood dragon sea disturbance secret art. However, the cultivator in front of him, who was able to break through Lu Ping's great river flows east, showed a clear pause in the face of the blue flood dragon sea disturbance secret art. In a battle between experts, the slightest mistake could make a difference of 1,000 miles. Just as the middle-aged cultivator condensed from spiritual chi also summoned a strange flood dragon from the huge wave of spiritual chi to fight with Lu Ping, a huge black cauldron with 2 ears suddenly appeared above Lu Ping's head. In truth, rather than saying it was a huge cauldron, it was better to say it was an enlarged wine cup. However, just as the huge wine cup appeared above Lu Ping's head, the middle-aged cultivator fighting with Lu Ping seemed to instinctively sense something. The strange flood dragon that was fighting with Lu Ping's flowing stream sword suddenly exploded, and the flowing stream sword wailed as it was summoned back into Lu Ping's hand. The middle-aged cultivator couldn't care less about the damage the strange flood dragon's self-destruction would do to his body and turned around to flee. Where do you think you're going? Behind the huge wine cup, a delicate and pretty little girl suddenly appeared. She looked at the middle-aged cultivator who was about to crash into the stone wall and giggled. She reached towards the bottom of the huge wine cup and held it up. At the same time, she tipped it down towards the middle-aged cultivator who was about to crash into the stone wall. "Come back!" The little girl's crisp voice rang out. As expected, the middle-aged cultivator's feet stopped, and he could no longer move. Chapter 786. Lu Ping didn't know why this little lady was willing to come out at this time because he knew very well that although Ling Long had agreed to recognize him as her master, Lu Ping would need to advance to the Dharma phase before he could fully display his power. But this didn't mean that without the support of Lu Ping's essential energy, Ling Long couldn't display her power. Otherwise, she wouldn't have almost escaped from Jiang Tianlin and Lao Zhu. Just as Ling Long pointed her wine cauldron at the middle-aged cultivator who was about to escape into the stone wall, he couldn't move his feet at all. Then, he struggled violently and slowly retreated in the direction of Ling Long's wine cauldron. Although the cultivator struggled with all his might, it was as if someone had completely restrained his weak point. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't get rid of Ling Long's attraction. Lu Ping could see that the condensed spiritual energy on the cultivator's body was quickly evaporating at a speed visible to the naked eye. Strands of spiritual energy were stripped from the cultivator's body and then completely swallowed by Ling Long's wine cauldron. The cultivator's body became more and more transparent, as if it would turn into nothingness under the power of Ling Long's wine cauldron at any time. "Ling Long, why did you want to come out and join in the fun this time?" Ling Long rolled her eyes and said indifferently, "This guy has the aura of pure yang qi." "Pure yang qi?" Lu Ping was taken aback and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Ling Long looked at Lu Ping with a surprised expression and said, "That's right, it's the pure yang qi. Didn't your Zhenyuan also fuse with the pure yang qi? Otherwise, how could you have reached such a high level in just 100 years of cultivation without showing signs of instability?" Lu Ping was dumbfounded and didn't know how to answer. After a long time, he said, "Ling Long, is pure yang qi that important to you?" Ling Long said unhappily, "What do you think? The reason why we spirit treasures are spirit treasures is because we can absorb pure yang qi after going through the thunder tribulation and strengthen our spirituality. If you don't have pure yang qi, why would I choose to follow you when you were in the core forging stage? Do you really think I care about the spiritual liquid in your hands?" Lu Ping was embarrassed by Ling Long's rebuke, but Ling Long continued, "But your mystic treasures that haven't awakened their sentience are ridiculously strong. I wanted to borrow some pure yang qi from them to replenish my strength, but they're all so stingy. I'm a spirit treasure after all, and I've survived a calamity. I've never been so humble before." Lu Ping smiled and wanted to change the topic, but he heard Ling Long whisper, "I don't know what good luck you have. You can actually refine pure yang qi when you were in the core forging stage. Why didn't you burn to death?" And those magic treasures that don't even have spiritual wisdom not only have such strong spirituality, but after being nourished by pure yang qi, it is very likely that they will become spirit treasures in the future. Lu Ping smiled and no longer said anything to Linglong. At this time, the spirit cultivator had turned back into the strange dragon. However, no matter how hard he struggled, he could not escape from the attraction of Linglong's wine cauldron. The strange dragon displayed several kinds of magical powers that made Lu Ping envious. However, before these magical powers could be used on Linglong's wine cauldron, they were all dissolved and absorbed by the spiritual power that the wine cauldron had displayed. Linglong, your spiritual power is so magical. In the future, when you fight with people, won't your opponents not even be able to use their magical powers? Lu Ping looked at the strange dragon's face. The 3 magical powers that it had displayed were all easily dissolved by Linglong. His face was filled with shock. How can it be so easy? Linglong looked at him as if he was ignorant and inexperienced. She pursed her lips and said, "Let's not talk about the fact that this spirit beast is only at the peak of the core forging stage. Although its strength is not weaker than the Dharma adept, it has not been able to reach the Dharma stage. I, on the other hand, have gone through a tribulation and am comparable to a Dharma adept. How can it compare to me? Besides, this spirit beast is actually formed from a complete spirit meridian, but it was restrained by my natural magical powers. If other cultivators used magical powers, the magical powers originated from the cultivator themselves. Then, it would not be so easily dissolved by the spiritual power." Although Lu Ping looked disappointed, he could not help but let out a sigh of relief. All magical powers could be said to be various ways of using inner yuan, spirit energy, and so on. If Linglong's spiritual power could make all magical powers invisible, then it would be too heaven-defying. However, after hearing what Linglong said, Lu Ping still could not believe it. He said, "You said that this spirit beast was formed from a whole spirit meridian? Of course, everything has a spirit, not to mention the spirit meridian itself. It's just that these spirit meridian originally did not have the qualifications to become spiritual. It was just that someone used a great magical power to forcibly awaken its spirituality and transform it into various forms of beasts. That's why it looks ignorant and has almost no self-awareness. It only exists in its primitive instinct to kill." Lu Ping listened to Linglong's narration and could not help but frown. He asked, "What kind of person would have such a magical power to turn it into a spirit? Could it really be Jiao Daoren of the 7th Patriarch who opened the sky?" Linglong sneered and said, "You really dare to think. But it's hard to say with all the legends of the sacred lake. If it is really a trick left behind by Jiao Daoren, then it can be considered as your good fortune. Good fortune is good fortune, but who knows if there is any deeper meaning in the means left behind by such a person. If you fall into the trap of these big shots, then there is really no way to go to heaven and no way to hell." Just as the two of them were talking, the huge spirit chi strange dragon finally turned into a thin shadow under the magical power of Linglong's spirit transformation. Linglong turned the giant cauldron in her small hand, and the wine cauldron quickly shrank to the size of a foot. However, it was still a little too big as a wine cup. Lu Ping looked over and saw a strange dragon the size of a gecko crawling at the bottom of the wine cauldron anxiously, but it could not escape. Well, that's it. This spirit meridian has been infiltrated with pure yang qi. This is also one of the necessary means to activate the spirit meridian. Next, I will separate the pure yang qi from this spirit meridian, and the rest of the spirit meridian is for you to absorb." Lu Ping chuckled and said, "Linglong, you also know that I accidentally refined a strand of pure yang qi. Aren't you a little too greedy to keep it all to yourself?" Linglong had an expression of, "You have taken a big advantage," and said, "Without your true yuan, how can I refine and absorb the pure yang qi?" Although the pure yang qi contained in this strange spirit qi strange dragon was absorbed by me, during the process of being nourished by your true yuan, a small part will still be returned to you. Moreover, after being filtered by my spirit treasure body, the benefits you will obtain will be even more. Hee, that's good. There is no time to lose. Let's start refining now. Who knows if there is another layer in this strange cave mansion? Lu Ping sat cross-legged on the ground. Linglong turned into a stream of light and poured into the wine cauldron. The wine cauldron enlarged again and slowly rotated above Lu Ping's head, making a buzzing sound. A white mist condensed like incense floated out of the wine cauldron. Then, as if being pulled by something, it poured into the top of Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping received this pure spirit qi from the top of his head, almost no less than a cultivator's true yuan. With a little refining, it integrated into Lu Ping's true yuan, which was now as thick as the Xinyuan heavy water. In the core space, the danxia, which had become thinner and thinner because of the continuous improvement of 12 gentian beads and the condensation of magical talismans, was quickly restored under the continuous refining of the spirit qi. The purple danxia continued to spread. Even at this time, in the center of the danxia, Lu Ping's huge golden dan seemed to have a life of its own. With a strange rhythm, it constantly absorbed the condensed essence in the danxia, but it still could not stop the rapid expansion of the danxia. The white jade lotus that had been floating under the golden dan was included. The 12 gentian beads that were rotating around the golden dan were also included. The 7 treasure thunder calabash swayed as if it was hesitating about something, but in the end, it did not escape. Several spirit-raising magic treasures made a low sound as the danxia whistled, as if they were cheering for something. The surface of the Na Chuan cauldron exuded a faint purple copper light. It seemed that the cauldron that had only condensed 1 treasure enchantment could also get some benefits from the expanding danxia. However, although many of these magic treasures could get a lot of benefits in the process of the danxia spreading, whether it was their natural self-absorption or Lu Ping consciously urged these magic treasures to absorb to prevent the expansion of the danxia. At this time, they could not maintain the consumption of the spirit qi at the speed of refining the danxia. The spirit qi contained in the strange spirit qi dragon that was refined this time was obviously beyond Lu Ping's expectation. This was also because Linglong suddenly intervened in the central plains, so Lu Ping did not have a complete understanding of the strength of the strange spirit qi dragon. Now it seemed that the strange spirit qi dragon obviously had many tricks that it had not used before it was restrained by Linglong. Lu Ping panicked a little. The true essence contained in the danxia was second only to the essence of the golden core. If the danxia continued to expand like this, once it filled the entire core space, and the golden core could not break through the original shackles to condense the danxia again, then the only thing that would greet Lu Ping would be the explosion of the core space and the destruction of his body. This shackle was the bottleneck that Lu Ping faced in advancing to the 9th layer of core forging. As long as Lu Ping could break through this shackle, after advancing to the 9th layer of core forging, the amount of danxia absorbed by the golden core would increase again. Coupled with the rapid expansion of the golden core when breaking through, it was inevitable that it would absorb a large amount of danxia. In this way, the crisis of the true essence in Lu Ping's core space could be easily solved. However, the key now was that Lu Ping had fully activated the North Sea Wave listening technique. He had tried to break through the barrier 7 or 8 times in a row, but each time he failed in front of the last layer. At this time, Linglong seemed to have lost control of her body. She only knew to inject the remaining refined spirit qi into Lu Ping's body. No matter how Lu Ping tried to communicate with her, there was no response. Chapter 787. Lu Ping's heart was beating like a war drum, and the blood vessels in his veins were like the waves of the Yulon River, crashing against the banks of the river. This was Lu Ping's 9th attempt to break through the bottleneck of the 9th stage of core forging. At this time, the core space had reached its limit, and the Dan mist had filled the entire space. If Lu Ping couldn't break through to the 9th layer core forging realm, then his heart core wouldn't be able to withstand the expansion of his arcane energy. However, if Lu Ping continued to break through to the 9th layer core forging realm, then he would have to continuously circulate the North Sea Wave listening scripture to infuse the refined arcane energy into his heart core, further accelerating the expansion of his Dan glow. At this time, Lu Ping had reached a critical juncture. Just as Lu Ping's heart was burning with anxiety, Linglong, who had not responded for a long time, finally moved. A ball of purple light rushed out of the wine cauldron and entered Lu Ping's core space through his chest. Lu Ping was startled at first, but when he saw the ball of purple light, he was overjoyed. He quickly used his divine sense to take control of it, and then the ball of purple light began to evolve. Similar to the things Lu Ping had obtained from the three spiritual beasts, this ball of purple light was also a catalyst for the formation of a divine ability talisman. A large amount of Dan-xia purple mist gathered towards the purple light sphere. While the purple light sphere was transforming into a talisman, it absorbed a large amount of Zhen Yuan essence in the core space for its own use. Only then did the expansion of the Dan-xia was temporarily controlled, and the pressure in the core space was greatly reduced. What kind of divine ability talisman would be formed this time? Lu Ping was naturally looking forward to it. A talisman quickly formed in the middle of the Dan mist. Lu Ping couldn't care less about the critical moment of his training, so he sent a strand of his divine sense into the talisman to investigate. Art of the Azure Serpent Sea Disturbance. Lu Ping curled his lips in dissatisfaction. Another sword technique that wasn't originally a great divine ability had been upgraded by him, like the art of water manipulation and the art of sea deception. Although the art of the Azure Serpent Sea Disturbance played an important role in Lu Ping's early training, its quality wasn't at the level of a great divine ability. After Lu Ping absorbed the ball of purple light, Lu Ping could clearly feel that the art of the Azure Serpent Sea Disturbance had a qualitative improvement. However, Lu Ping was still a little dissatisfied. Why couldn't it be the art of the Azure Waves, or the art of all rivers flow into the sea, which were originally great divine abilities, or great divine abilities? This thought flashed through Lu Ping's mind. After all, it seemed that the formation of this thing was very difficult to control. However, Lu Ping took this opportunity to fully circulate the art of North Sea Wave listening. His blood flowed in his veins, and with a thought, Lu Ping condensed a purple sword light on the surface of the talisman floating in the middle of the Dan mist in the core space, and completely integrated into his veins. After the purple sword light integrated into his veins, Lu Ping suddenly felt as if his veins had suddenly gained an indomitable momentum. It seemed that no matter what obstacles there were in front of him, he would inevitably have the confidence to break through them. Art of the East. What was the meaning of Art of the East? What was needed was an indomitable momentum and the drive to not give up until the goal was achieved. Pure Yang Qi, Pure Yang Qi. It turned out that Pure Yang Qi had such a magical effect. It contained a divine ability within the inner Yuan, and it didn't need to be visible on the outside. It could kill people invisibly with just a wave of one's hand, and it could move according to one's heart. How carefree was this? Was this the realm of words become law? This realm was usually reached after a cultivator had advanced to the Dharma Adept stage and achieved a divine ability. How could Lu Ping still have the time to be surprised? With such a characteristic of the inner Yuan, it would be of great help to him in breaking through to the 9th level of the core forging stage. It was a good time for him to give it his all. Lu Ping worked hard to compress the purple Dan mist towards the golden core in the center of the core space. At this moment, the huge golden core was also covered with a layer of purple light. It was as if a layer of dull thunder had exploded in the core space. The golden core that sat motionless in the center of the core space finally moved under the influence of the North Sea Wave listening technique. Lu Ping was overjoyed. Under his unremitting efforts, the last window paper of the 9th level of the core forging stage had finally split open a shallow crack. Everything was difficult at the beginning. As long as this crack was opened, Lu Ping believed that breaking through to the 9th level of the core forging stage would be a matter of time. The more water a dam was filled with, the stronger it would be. However, once the dam had an ant-hole, it meant that the dam was not far from collapsing. Once the flood finally broke through the dam, it would definitely be a spectacular scene of 1,000 miles of water gushing out. The true essence in his body was like a never-ending river, wave after wave crashing into that crack. The golden core, which had been shaken by the red glow, once again let out a thunderous sound in the core space. The golden core, which was suspended in the center of the core space, finally began to rotate slowly. 8 strange dragons were constantly hovering on the surface of the golden core, as if cheering for something, and as if expecting something. At this moment, the purple Dan mist surrounding the golden core suddenly disappeared. The entire space filled with the Dan mist suddenly formed an empty space with the golden core as the center. The surrounding Dan mist quickly squeezed in and occupied the previous space. The periphery of the Dan mist and the core space suddenly shrank. Lu Ping, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, finally let out a long breath. The 9th level of the core forging stage was no longer a problem, but the process was still very long. The Dan glow that suddenly disappeared around the gold core was completely absorbed by the gold core. The reason why this happened to the gold core, which was supposed to absorb the Dan glow gradually, was that an egg-like purple light spot suddenly appeared on the surface of the gold core. The 8 strange dragons were constantly hovering and flashing around this spot of light. The surrounding Dan glow was absorbed by the golden core at a speed several times faster than before, and then the visible purple lines on the surface of the golden core all the way into the purple spot of light. After an unknown amount of time, the purple spot of light finally let out a burst sound, and the entire core space seemed to reverberate with a strange sound. Under the cover of this sound, the originally surging Dan mist calmed down. The 12 gentian beads seemed to have stopped rotating in an instant, and the 7 treasures thunder gourd also became a lot more well-behaved. The Linglong wine cauldron floating above Lu Ping's head also seemed to sense something. The entire wine cauldron shook for a moment, as if it couldn't hold on any longer, and smashed onto Lu Ping's head. The light spot on the gold core emitted a dazzling purple light at the same time as the sound of the explosion. When the purple light dissipated, a strange dragon that was exactly the same as the other 8 strange dragons appeared on the surface of the gold core, but its body was a size smaller. It was circling and playing with the other 8 strange dragons as if it was celebrating something. The 9th level of the core forging stage was finally completed. Lu Ping used his divine sense to explore the situation in the core space while circulating his true yuan to consolidate his newly advanced stage. The Dan mist continued to decrease. Although there was a steady flow of spiritual qi from the Linglong wine cauldron, it still couldn't keep up with the speed of the golden core's breathing. This was especially true for the 9th strange dragon, which was originally the weakest, but now it was rapidly growing. Cultivators often needed about a year to consolidate their cultivation after advancing. Lu Ping used the pure spiritual qi from the Linglong wine cauldron to make a breakthrough in just half a year. With such an abundant supply of spiritual qi in the remaining half a year, Lu Ping easily consolidated his cultivation of the 9th level of the core forging stage. He no longer needed to worry about his cultivation fluctuating. It had been more than 4 years since Lu Ping entered the river source. At this time, the more peripheral spirit gathering areas in the sacred lake were ready to open one after another. The deeper one went into the sacred lake. The later the spirit gathering area would open. The final opening of the river source would be a year later. When Lu Ping and the other cultivators came out of seclusion in the spirit gathering area, who knew how chaotic the sacred lake would be? Rumble, rumble, rumble? Lu Ping stared blankly at the tremors on the ground. In the center of the cave mansion, a hole seemed to be gradually forming from nothing, from small to large. Sure enough, there was another cave mansion below. Presumably, the area of that cave mansion was even narrower than this one. Could this spirit gathering area really have been created by Jiao Daoren with the horn on his head? The hole gradually expanded, and it looked like it could accommodate Lu Ping's body. Just as Lu Ping was about to walk out of the cave, he suddenly heard a long groan coming from the cave. It seemed to be far away, but at the same time, it gave Lu Ping a familiar feeling. Lu Ping's expression changed. How could it form so quickly? According to his previous experience, when the hole opened, the spiritual qi in the cave mansion had just begun to gather. After Lu Ping entered the cave mansion, the spiritual qi behemoth would form. However, this time, just as Lu Ping was about to walk towards the hole, a strong spiritual qi with a tyrannical impact suddenly spewed out from the cave mansion. This sudden explosive force caused Lu Ping to hurriedly stop his footsteps. The light curtain hanging down from the water control flag was directly pushed back by 3 feet by the residual force of the shockwave. Linglong jumped out of nowhere. Looking at the hole in front of her, she suddenly frowned and shouted, "Not good. The thing down there has already opened its spiritual wisdom. It's going to rush out." Lu Ping's heart trembled. A bluish-purple true essence emerged from behind him, and under the control of the water control art, it formed a huge true essence water net above the hole. After advancing to the 9th layer core forging realm, Lu Ping's arcane essence contained a trace of pure yang qi. With the help of the incantation charms, his arcane essence also contained the power of the water manipulation art. In the end, the water net he weaved was twice as powerful as before. "It's coming out." As soon as Linglong's voice fell, a white fog once again spewed out from the hole. This time, it was different from the previous spiritual qi. Lu Ping could feel a strong vitality coming from it. It was a ball of extremely condensed spiritual energy. There seemed to be something hidden in the white mist, and it was impossible to see its head or tail. And it was precisely the thing hidden in the white mist that made Lu Ping's heart beat faster. He even felt a sense of a bloodline connection between the spiritual energy and the spiritual energy. Strange, strange, strange. Chapter 788. Bang, bang, bang. The water net that Lu Ping had set up broke several times under the impact of the white fog. Seeing that the water net was about to break, Lu Ping waved at the broken water net, and a strange dragon appeared above the white fog. The strange Jiao circled in the air and roared at the thing in the white mist below. Then, it dove headfirst into the mist, causing the white mist to tumble and tumble. However, Lu Ping didn't know what was happening inside. His divine sense was blocked when it came into contact with the white mist. He could only sense it through the Azure Jiaoxi disturbance art. What was in there? Lu Ping did not dare to be careless. Seeing how easily the opponent had broken through half of Lu Ping's water control technique, Lu Ping knew that the opponent's ability was even higher than Dharma adepts like Qin Shui and Lao Zu, who had fallen at the hands of Lu Ping. The white fog tumbled, and Lu Ping's gaze drifted over. His hands suddenly stopped moving. A golden scale flashed in front of Lu Ping's eyes, and it was immediately covered by the tumbling fog. It seemed that the thing hidden in the white fog had accidentally revealed itself in the process of fighting with the green dragon that Lu Ping had summoned. Lu Ping immediately activated the dual flying swords, and the beautiful autumn dew sword flew by Lu Ping's side, the tip of the sword pointing in the direction of the tumbling white fog. At this time, Lu Ping had already sensed that the green dragon that he had placed in the white fog was at a disadvantage in the battle with the thing hidden in it. Lu Ping flicked his finger, and a stream of water stretched forward, then transformed into a long, thin sword. The long sword flew up high, opposite the dual flying swords. The tip of the sword also pointed at the white fog. The long roar from the white mist was filled with excitement. Lu Ping could sense that the green Jiao dragon was already at the end of its tether. The existence hidden in the white mist had dissected the green Jiao dragon, leaving it riddled with wounds. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ping had summoned it with a spell, it would have died a long time ago. Lu Ping pointed to the empty space on the other side. There seemed to be a flash of blue in the air, but when he looked closely, there was nothing there. The 4 flying swords hung around the cave mansion, their tips pointed at the white mist. At this moment, the white mist suddenly gave off a sound of collapse. Rain sprinkled out of the white mist and fell into the cave mansion at the bottom of the cave. Lu Ping made a sign with both hands, then suddenly put his hands together and shouted, "Ha!" The 4 flying swords hanging around the white mist shone brightly, and countless sword shadows separated from the 4 flying swords. In just a moment, the entire cave mansion was filled with the sword shadows of the flying swords, leaving only the space where the white mist was. All the sword shadows pointed their tips at the white mist, and the cold sword light gradually rose in the cave mansion, ready to turn into a killing intent at any time. The thing hidden in the white fog seemed to have sensed the unparalleled killing intent of Lu Ping's 4 flying swords. The white fog that was originally like boiling water seemed to calm down at this time, as if it was thinking or hesitating about something. At this time, Lu Ping suddenly felt a weight on his shoulder. Linglong was already sitting on it. Looking at the white fog in the distance, Linglong put her hand in front of her mouth and spat out a blood-red gem. She handed it to Lu Ping and said, "Here, this is what was left when I refined that strange lizard just now." The gemstone was only a little bigger than a fingernail, but Lu Ping could tell at a glance that this blood-red gemstone was made of the same material as the bloodstone he obtained from the secret land in the Fallen Star secret land. Lu Ping was slightly happy in his heart. He was about to reach out and take the gem, but suddenly he heard an angry roar in the white fog. The white fog that was originally confronting Lu Ping's sword formation suddenly rushed towards Lu Ping. The white fog that was previously rolled up suddenly stretched into a long cloud. A golden claw suddenly came out of the depths of the white fog and grabbed the blood-red gem in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping also guessed that the existence in the white fog seemed to have a snake-like body from the scales and half of the claws that were exposed during the white fog's turbulence. Was it because of this bloodstone? A thought flashed in Lu Ping's mind, and he shouted, "Come on!" He made a gesture with one hand and shouted, "Gather!" The 4 flying swords joined together from 4 directions, forming a huge sword net. Countless sword shadows shuttled back and forth in it, like a huge meat grinder. No matter how strong one's strength was, under this sword formation, one would be unable to deal with the omnipresent attacks. In the end, one's true essence would be exhausted, and only death awaited. The Sea of Hundred Rivers sword technique was the one that Lu Ping was most familiar with. He had studied it for the longest time. It was the most powerful sword technique, but it was far from reaching the highest level. Even though Lu Ping had gone through several fortuitous encounters, causing the Great River Flowing East sword technique to have the potential to become a supreme sword technique, Lu Ping could still feel that the profoundness of the Sea of Hundred Rivers sword technique was far from what the Great River Flowing East sword technique could compare to. Even the highest sword technique of the Surplus Heavens sect, the Surplus Heavens sword technique, which had been passed down for a long time, might not be able to compare to the Sea of Hundred Rivers sword technique after it became a supreme sword technique. The Sea of Hundred Rivers sword technique could combine tens of thousands of swords into one. In Lu Ping's opinion, when this sword technique was practiced to the extreme, it could only be summed up in 5 words: one sword to break all techniques. In the beginning, in order to pursue the power of the sword technique, Lu Ping had already practiced the Sea of Hundred Rivers sword technique to the level of a supreme sword technique. However, he had taken a detour after all. The power of this sword technique, from the early stage to the late stage of the core forging realm, didn't increase much in Lu Ping's hands. It only grew along with Lu Ping's cultivation. It wasn't until Lu Ping helped celestial phenomenon Laozu overcome the second tribulation that Lu Ping realized that there was a problem with his swordsmanship. It took him another 10 years to gradually correct the mistakes he had made in the Sea of Hundred Rivers sword technique. Lu Ping's cultivation had just advanced, and he wanted to find an opponent to test his strength. Seeing that the existence in the white mist was able to easily break Lu Ping's supreme sword technique, the art of water manipulation, he was naturally interested in a battle. The existence in the white mist seemed to be able to sense the power of Lu Ping's sword technique. The slender cloud shook its body and swayed its tail. A mysterious force spread out in all directions, pushing away all the sword shadows that were shuttling in all directions. It was unexpectedly able to resist Lu Ping's sword technique. How could it be so easy? Lu Ping made a circle with his hands and shouted in a deep voice, "Turn!" The sword shadows that were shuttling in all directions had unknowingly arranged themselves into a strange shape. As Lu Ping shouted, the countless sword shadows were like an army that had been trained to command like an arm. They patted the neat formation and began to slowly spin with the white mist as the center. As the sword shadows spun, the huge sword formation began to gradually shrink. Countless sword shadows attacked the existence in the white mist, but they were all repelled after one hit. This caused the white mist to be unable to break free from the strangulation of the sword formation. Waves of angry roars came from the white mist, but it was unable to do anything to Lu Ping. Lu Ping's expression turned even more solemn. He could feel that his sword skill was able to cause great pain to the existence in the white mist. However, he couldn't tell if he had caused any harm to the white mist by looking at its surface. Suppress its spirituality first, then I will weaken it. Linglong, who was sitting on Lu Ping's shoulder, suddenly said. Lu Ping was startled and said, Didn't you say that this thing has already gained spirituality and can no longer be weakened by the spirit transformation technique? Linglong had an expression that said she really couldn't communicate with him. She said, Can I make a wrong judgment? Lu Ping had a speechless expression, but in his ears, he heard Linglong say, Although this thing has gained spirituality, it is the same as the previous 4 kinds of spiritual beasts. In the beginning, it was accelerated by magical powers, not natural growth. Therefore, it is possible to have spirituality. It is only because the great master who used the magical power to accelerate the growth of these spiritual veins was so heaven-defying that this thing can control such a powerful magical power with such a low spirituality. This is really incredible. Lu Ping already had some absurd inferences about the existence in the white mist, but he didn't say much. He just followed Linglong's words and condensed a golden cloud in the sky. Then, golden raindrops fell into the white mist. The art of moving clouds and summoning rain, and the medium that Lu Ping used to cast this magical power was the myriad poison paste. Just like how the existence in the white mist let out a long roar filled with endless anger because of Lu Ping's 100 Rivers sword skill, this time, when the golden raindrops fell into the mist, it let out a roar filled with fear. Linglong, who was sitting on Lu Ping's shoulder, swung her legs and said proudly, See, I said so. It's just that your myriad poison paste doesn't seem to be very suitable. The best method to destroy spirituality was naturally a divine sense attack. Taking advantage of the time when the existence in the white mist was hit by Lu Ping's art of moving clouds and summoning rain, Lu Ping's divine sense, which had become more tyrannical after advancing to the 9th layer of core forging, pressed down on the white mist with the force of Mount Tai. In one fell swoop, the white mist's isolation effect on divine sense was broken. Suddenly, a despairing roar came from the white mist, and Lu Ping's expression suddenly changed. Linglong, who had long been ready to attack, saw Lu Ping's expression change. She didn't bother to ask for the reason and immediately hugged the huge wine cauldron in her arms. Then, she pointed the mouth of the wine cauldron in the direction of the white mist and activated the spirit transformation divine ability. The existence in the white mist struggled fiercely, but it was firmly bound in place by the huge whirlpool formed by countless sword shadows. After Lu Ping's divine sense invaded the white mist, the existence in the white mist seemed to become more and more fragile. Under the illumination of Linglong's spirit transformation divine ability, it could only let out increasingly despairing and weak roars. The general situation was settled. Lu Ping let out a long sigh of relief. His previously fluctuating expression still carried a trace of inexplicable color. What did you see? What is that thing? It's so secretive that people can't figure it out. It's nothing. Maybe the great master who created this existence didn't know what it looked like. Or maybe he only knew bits and pieces of it and imagined it out of thin air. What do you mean? What don't you know? Your divine sense invaded the white mist. What is inside? Lu Ping turned to the curious Linglong and said, It's better if you don't know. Chapter 789. The divine sense attack was very dangerous, and there were many scruples. Even Lu Ping, who was considered a weirdo among the cultivators at the same level as him, did not dare to invade the opponent's body with his divine sense when the opponent was awake. That was simply courting death. The so-called divine sense attack could only cause harm to the opponent when the opponent also released his divine sense into the body and did not take any precautions. Once the opponent was on guard, the divine sense attack could only cause a tingling in the head at most. Previously, Lu Ping did not dare to invade the white mist with his divine sense because he was afraid that the existence in the white mist would take advantage of the situation and counterattack, causing Lu Ping to go for wool and come home shorn. After listening to Linglong's words, Lu Ping knew that the opponent's spirituality had just awakened and certainly did not have many means to resist his tyrannical divine sense. Only then did Lu Ping take measures. However, out of caution, He still used the myriad poison paste's corrosive characteristics to temporarily distract the attention of the existence in the white mist. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. What's so special about it? Linglong turned her small face angrily, and the wine cauldron in her arms suddenly increased its strength to dissolve the white mist. She wanted to dissolve the white mist, and then the thing hidden inside would naturally be exposed. However, she still held a grudge against Lu Ping. She could only quietly glance at Lu Ping, but she saw that Lu Ping had a blank look on his face, and no one knew what he was thinking. Linglong wanted to absorb the white mist formed by the spiritual qi to see what was hidden inside, but Linglong was ultimately disappointed. Except for the golden claws that occasionally appeared in the white mist, until the white mist was almost completely absorbed, Linglong did not see anything else. How can there be nothing? The existence inside clearly showed some golden claws. Linglong angrily asked Lu Ping beside her, but Lu Ping made a helpless expression. He could only hate Linglong so much that she could bare her fangs and brandish her claws, wishing that she could skin him alive. All right, stop messing around. Lu Ping pointed at the hole in the ground and said, "Let's go down and take a look at the fifth cave residence first." Sure enough, as Lu Ping had expected, the area of the cave mansion had shrunk once again. The entire cave mansion was now only 100 feet wide. Lu Ping couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, the existence in the white mist seemed to be in a hurry to escape from the cave mansion. If it had waited for Lu Ping to enter the cave mansion before fighting it, such a narrow space would not be very advantageous for Lu Ping. After looking around, there was no unexpected discovery, which made Lu Ping look a little frustrated. Linglong, who was next to him, suddenly said, "I have already stripped the pure yang qi contained in the white mist, but this time the pure yang qi in it is far beyond my expectations. The remaining spiritual energy is too strong. You'd better go into seclusion now. Otherwise, I won't be able to control it for a long time, and it will be a pity if the spiritual energy dissipates." Lu Ping said gloomily, "All right, I'll cultivate for a while first. Anyway, this inexplicable space has reached the deepest part of the sacred lake. It will take 5 years for the spiritual energy to open up. There is still 1 year left." 1 year passed in the blink of an eye for Lu Ping, who was in seclusion. Linglong spat out a blood-colored gem from her mouth and handed it to Lu Ping. She asked with a displeased expression, "You clearly had the opportunity to advance to the peak of the core forging realm. Why did you put all your energy into condensing the 7th restriction for the white jade lotus?" The spiritual energy contained in the white mist in the 5th cave mansion was extremely pure, far exceeding Lu Ping's expectations. In just 1 year, Lu Ping's cultivation had almost risen from the early stage of the core forging realm to the peak of the core forging realm. He was only 1 step away from refining the 3rd heaven and earth spiritual item and condensing a gold core. With Lu Ping's current state, the 1st heaven and earth spiritual item he refined was the low-grade profound essence heavy water. The 2nd heaven and earth spiritual item he refined was the mid-grade myriad wonder dew. Moreover, he had refined 2 portions. Therefore, the heaven and earth spiritual item he needed to advance to the peak of the core forging realm could only be a high-grade heaven and earth spiritual item. Moreover, according to his current situation, 1 portion of high-grade heaven and earth spiritual item might not be enough. It wasn't that Lu Ping didn't have any high-grade heaven and earth spiritual items on him. The high-grade heaven and earth spiritual item Thunder Tribulation Water was just right for Lu Ping to refine. Unfortunately, Lu Ping only had 1 portion on him. A high-grade heaven and earth spiritual item Thunder Tribulation Water was extremely rare. If it was someone else, even if they couldn't refine a portion, they would fight to refine half a portion or even a few drops. However, when it came to Lu Ping, he gave up the opportunity to form a gold core because he didn't have enough Thunder Tribulation Water. If word of this got out, countless cultivators in the cultivation world would be so ashamed that they wanted to die. Then, they would fly into a rage out of humiliation and kill Lu Ping. Moreover, Lu Ping's cultivation progress was different from that of ordinary cultivators. Ordinary cultivators only needed to replenish their bloodline 3 times in the blood condensation realm. However, Lu Ping had already replenished his bloodline 6 times. Moreover, he could clearly feel that it would be impossible for him to advance to the peak of the core forging realm and form a gold core without the replenishment of the Flood Dragon's bloodline. And this time, Lu Ping had already decided on the target of the bloodline replenishment, Ma Chenxi of the Pegasus clan, the fourth young master Ma of the Pegasus clan. This was also Lu Ping's condition for Qing Hu to submit to him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come all the way to the West Baron just to kill Qing Hu. After 5 years of seclusion in the land of spiritual convergence, fourth young master Ma should have already raised his cultivation to the peak of the core forging realm. In this case, his bloodline was just right for Lu Ping's use. The huge amount of spiritual qi that was enough for Lu Ping to advance to the peak of the core forging realm was finally used by Lu Ping to upgrade the White Jade Lotus. This White Jade Lotus was the most important part of Lu Ping's natal Gentian formation. Half of the power of the Gentian formation was concentrated on this White Jade Lotus. Previously, when Lu Ping absorbed the spiritual qi from the giant beasts, one spiritual qi beast was enough for Lu Ping to upgrade the 6 Gentian beads to the spirit nurturing level. However, when he used it on the White Jade Lotus, he only managed to complete the 7th restriction treasure. His 13 natal mystic treasures, including the White Jade Lotus, had all advanced to the spirit nurturing grade. It would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens in the future. But even so, if he could unleash the full power of the natal mystic treasure, even Lu Ping couldn't imagine how powerful it would be. In reality, even the current Lu Ping did not have the confidence that he could fully unleash the power of the Gentian formation formed by the 13 spirit-nurturing treasures. You have to advance to the transcendence level as soon as possible. What? Lu Ping looked at Linglong in shock. Absorbing pure yang qi twice in a row has been very beneficial to my body. I think I have to prepare for the second tribulation. If you don't have the strength of the transcendence level, won't you be a burden to me? Lu Ping looked at Linglong, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Seeing her expression, Lu Ping gave up and said, all right, I will try my best to find suitable spirit water of heaven and earth. Right now, there is only one portion of tribulation water, which is far from enough for my current accumulation. Also, tribulation water of thunder is extremely difficult to refine. You know this as well. If I don't have complete confidence, I will never advance to the peak of the core forging level. Then what do we do now? 5 years have passed, and this damned place still hasn't opened. Do we still have to wait here? Although Lu Ping's face was calm, at this time, he was a little nervous. Anyone who was locked in a secret plane for 5 years without knowing whether there was a way out or not was at a loss. I don't know if there is a 6th floor of the cave mansion. Now is the 5th floor. If it is really an inverted tower, it should be from the top. As soon as Lu Ping's voice fell, the slate under his feet suddenly cracked. With a crashing sound, a hole appeared in the soles of his feet. There is really a 6th floor? Lu Ping looked at the cave entrance with a strange expression. At the same time, he was on guard for any spirit beasts that might rush out from the cave. But soon, he realized that he was making a fuss over a minor issue. What appeared under his feet was only a cone-shaped stone pit, not a cave mansion. There were no spirit beasts in the cave, either. Instead, there was only a cone-shaped horn that was 3 feet long and pointed downwards. It was a single horn that was perfectly straight. Boom. Lu Ping looked up. Originally, there was always an endless void above Lu Ping's head. At this time, a huge vortex suddenly appeared, and the light in the center of the vortex kept expanding. Finally, it formed a huge passageway that was big enough for Lu Ping to enter and exit. Lu Ping could see the scenery of the bottom of Sacred Lake through the passageway. The place where Lu Ping was had opened. Lu Ping did not dare to think too much. He reached out and took out the horn-like object from the stone pit, stuffed it into his storage device, and then threw Linglong into the golden house. Immediately, a stream of water sprayed out from under his feet. Lu Ping stood on the stream of water and slowly rose until he disappeared from the mouth of the vortex. After Lu Ping left the cave mansion, the mysterious and strange cave mansion suddenly shook. Then, huge rocks fell out of nowhere. Amidst the loud bangs, the cave mansion was slowly flattened. Then, the water of Sacred Lake fell from the sky and filled the entire cave mansion. Lu Ping, who had left the cave mansion, did not notice everything that had happened after he came out. At that moment, he was standing at the bottom of Sacred Lake. The water and moon-avoiding pearls hung high above his head, illuminating the surroundings of the bottom of the lake as much as possible so that Lu Ping could see further. However, Lu Ping immediately noticed that the undercurrent at the bottom of Sacred Lake that could distort spiritual force had already disappeared. Lu Ping's spiritual force could easily cover a distance of thousands of feet at the bottom of the lake. Something was wrong. Why was there no one in Sacred Lake? Lu Ping's expression immediately turned solemn. He quickly floated up to the top of the lake and soon arrived at a depth of 7,000 feet, where he had placed the three spirits in the three spirit gathering grounds. The protective formations of the three places had already been automatically activated. It was obvious that Samling had already come out. However, Lu Ping did not find the imprints left by the three people at the place where Samling had come out of seclusion. This was what Lu Ping had agreed to with the three of them. What exactly had happened? Lu Ping had a bad feeling in his heart. His intuition told him that the three spirits were in trouble. The biggest possibility was that the three spirits met with an accident the moment they activated the spirit gathering place. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been late enough to leave their mark on the three spirits. Chapter 790. Although Lu Ping was a little worried about Samling's safety, he was not anxious. When he left Samling alone in the land of spiritual convergence, how could he not know that Samling would come out of seclusion a year earlier than him? The reason why he did this was to give Samling a chance to train alone. Ever since Samling was born, he rarely left Lu Ping's side. The only time he left was when the three little guys caused a huge disaster. They actually killed Sage Xuanqin's disciple, Hu Lily's senior sister, which made Lu Ping furious. After that, they were not allowed to act alone anymore. However, it was impossible for Samling to stay by Lu Ping's side for the rest of his life. After all, they were green sea snakes, the noblest existences among the demon clan. They were also Lu Ping's biggest and closest assistants in the cultivation world in the future. How could they be sheltered by Lu Ping's wings? Moreover, with Samling's strength and the few magic treasures in his possession, after the seclusion in the land of spiritual convergence, Samling's cultivation would definitely increase to the 7th layer of the core forging realm. If the three of them joined forces, even a 9th layer core forging realm cultivator might not be a match for them. Unless they encountered people like Ma Qinxi, Li Tong, or Xie Tianyang, even a cultivator at the peak of the core forging realm might not be able to stop the three of them. Thinking of this, Lu Ping's mood slightly calmed down. Then, he immediately floated to the surface of the sacred fall lake. He wanted to see what was going on. Why was there not a single cultivator in the sacred fall lake? Where did everyone go? Lu Ping guessed that Samling's disappearance must have something to do with this matter. However, there was a faint worry in Lu Ping's heart, as if he had just neglected something. However, he could not recall this matter at the moment, so Lu Ping could only suppress this thought for now. Sixth Brother Lei, are we really going there? This time, although we did not manage to snatch the position from the one in the sacred fall lake, at least we managed to survive. Moreover, the spiritual energy in the river source is very dense. These 5 years of cultivation time have saved us at least 10 years of cultivation time. This is already a good deal. Why should we take the risk to compete with others for that thing? Stupid. Do you know what it means to take something? Don't know? Don't know? Or don't know? Do you know Ma Zhan of the Timma people? Of course, the leader of the Pegasus clan. Back then, when he was only at the mid-Dharma stage, he was able to fight against the great adepts of the Western Desert Palace. How could we not know such a heroic figure? Then do you know why Ma Zhan was able to take over the position of leader of the Pegasus tribe when he was only at the mid-Dharma stage all those years ago, and how he was able to fight against the great adepts of the Western Desert Palace as a mid-Dharma adept? Could it be because of the Stone of Dragon Blood? That's right. According to legend, the Stone of Dragon Blood was formed from the blood that dripped from Jiao Doran's wound after he was injured. It contains a large amount of the essence of Jiao Doran's blood. If we can integrate it, we may be able to reach the level of Ma Zhan in the future. Sixth Brother Lei, is what you said true? I heard that it's because the green sea snake appeared in the sacred fall lake. Now the Tenma people and the Khoi clan are surrounding the green sea snake. Even the Shaozi sword Xie Tianyang of the 6 legendary swords of the Ziyang Palace has rushed over. Stupid. The stone of dragon blood has naturally fallen into the hands of the 3 green sea snakes. The Tenma people and the Khoi clan will naturally not let it go. Think about it. Even the Emerald Sea Spirit Serpent is here for this Flood Dragon Bloodstone. So it must be extremely important. Sixth brother, even if you are right, don't forget that the green sea snakes are known as the descendants of Jiao Daoran. They are more terrifying than the Tenma people and the Khoi clan combined. They are comparable to the behemoth of the Ziyang Palace. If we go looking for trouble with the green sea snakes, wouldn't we be tired of living? Why are you talking back to me when I call you stupid? There is more than one stone of dragon blood. Although the green sea snakes are strong, the Tenma people and the Khoi clan are the real local snakes. In the West Wilderness, would they be afraid of the green sea snakes whose nest is far away in the East Sea? When the time comes, there will definitely be a chaotic battle. When that time comes, we just need to fish in troubled waters. Even if we can't get the stone of dragon blood, it would be good to get the bodies of the elite disciples of the 2 clans and sections. It's better than the belongings of us itinerant cultivators. Sixth brother is right. This time, we broke through the blockade of the Pegasus and Khoi clans and entered the river source with the hope of advancing to the Dharma stage. Now that we haven't entered the sacred lake of dusk, we've only saved a few years of training time, but it won't help us advance to the Dharma stage in the slightest. If we can get the relics of the disciples who died in the battle, then this trip will not be in vain. If we're lucky enough to get 1 or 2 Flood Dragon Bloodstones, we'll have made a fortune. Yes, let's do it. Okay, let's go for broke. Under the surface of the sacred fall lake, Lu Ping had turned into a stream of water and was quietly listening to the discussion of the cultivators by the lake. Lu Ping's water escape technique had become more and more exquisite after he advanced to the 9th level of the core forging realm. Although the cultivators were itinerant cultivators, their 8th or 9th level core forging realm cultivation was not weak among the cultivators of the same level. However, they did not notice Lu Ping, who was very close to them. After the few of them left, a tiny thread of water emerged from the palm-sized sage lake and gradually weaved into a person on the meadow beside it. Lu Ping squinted his eyes and looked in the direction where the group disappeared. He pondered for a moment and then also turned into a ball of water light and blended into the crisscrossing water net on the ground. No one knew where he went. Hundreds of years ago, the Flood Dragon Bloodstone appeared in the sacred fall lake for the first time. At that time, it was obtained by Jin Wuyo of the Khoi clan. Jin Wuyo refused the help of many experts of the Khoi clan, including Li Tong's teacher, but in the end, he was plotted against by Ma Zhan of the Tenma people. In the end, the Flood Dragon Bloodstone was obtained by Ma Zhan, and he became the leader of the Tenma people who was like the sun in the sky today. Jin Wuyo, on the other hand, went through many hardships and finally died. Even his only son was killed by Lu Ping while he was overseas. This time, the Tenma people and the Khoi clan went to war and did not hesitate to offend all the cultivators in the world in order to prevent others from entering the periphery of the river source. This was to create opportunities for the cultivators of the Pegasus and Khoi clan to obtain more Flood Dragon Bloodstones in the sacred fall lake. It was also Samling's luck that the Flood Dragon Bloodstone suddenly appeared near where Samling was in seclusion. When Samling came out of seclusion, the Flood Dragon Bloodstone caused Samling's bloodline to vibrate. This made the 3 of them instantly think of the bloodstone that Lu Ping had seen and heard Lu Ping talk about. Although Samling did not know that the bloodstone was the Flood Dragon Bloodstone, this did not prevent the 3 of them from understanding the value of the Flood Dragon Bloodstone. Unfortunately, at this time, the cultivators of the Pegasus and Khoi clan who were searching for the Flood Dragon Bloodstone in the Sacred Fall Lake also saw that Samling did not put away the Flood Dragon Bloodstone immediately. When the 2 Tenma people saw that the 3 cultivators who had just advanced to the 7th stage of the core forging realm obtained the Flood Dragon Bloodstone, how could they care about Samling? They immediately rushed forward to snatch it. However, the 2 Tenma people were clearly out of luck. Although the 2 of them had higher cultivation than Samling, under Lu Ping's years of training and the green sea snake's noble bloodline, Even if Samling could not easily jump 2 or 3 stages to challenge others like Lu Ping, he was still not someone that 2 cultivators who were only 1 stage higher than the 3 of them could challenge. The 2 cultivators from the Heavenly Horse clan, who had underestimated their enemies, suffered greatly from the 3 spirits who had gone all out. The 2 of them were seriously wounded. When the 2 of them realized what was happening and wanted to retreat, the 3 spirits took advantage of the situation and killed one of them. If it weren't for the fact that the 3 spirits had too little experience in fighting alone, they wouldn't have let the other person escape. Fortunately, Samling immediately realized that he had caused a great deal of trouble. After a discussion, the 3 of them decided to retreat from Sacred Lake and hide, waiting for Lu Ping to come out of seclusion. However, the Tenma people had the advantage of numbers in the river source. After a while, through the special methods of the Tenma people, many Tenma people immediately took action and began to chase after Samling. Fortunately, at this time, Ma Chinsi, who was cultivating in the spiritual energy gathering area 9,000 feet deep, had not come out yet. Although the Tenma people were chasing after Samling everywhere, they were like a group of dragons without a leader. Instead, Samling took the opportunity to injure and kill several of them. At this time, the Tenma people were in an uproar. The Tenma people were used to running amok in the western wilderness. Especially in the last few hundred years, the Tenma people had risen strongly and had a faint momentum of becoming the #1 royal family in the western wilderness. When had they ever suffered such a great loss? Almost all the Tenma people who heard the news came to chase and intercept Samling. The movement of the Tenma people naturally alarmed the Khoi people, who were also concerned about the Flood Dragon Bloodstone. After the Khoi people received the news, they immediately sent cultivators to intercept and kill Samling. After a fierce battle, Samling broke out of the encirclement by relying on the spirit-nurturing magic treasure in his hand. However, the Khoi people also found out about Samling. Green Sea Snake, it was actually the Green Sea Snake. Both the Khoi people and the Tenma people were shocked when they received the news. They immediately slowed down their pursuit of Samling. As the top demonic beasts with the bloodline of the Flood Dragon, no one knew better than the Tenma people and the Khoi people what the Green Sea Snake meant to them. How could the Green Sea Snake come here? This was the western wilderness, an inland grassland. The Green Sea Snake had always dominated the East Sea. How could it come to the far west? Although everyone was puzzled, no one dared to hunt down the Emerald Sea Spirit Snake in broad daylight. No one dared to bear the responsibility. Once the Emerald Sea Spirit Snake came out in full force, both the Pegasus clan and the Khoi clan would be annihilated in a single day. In the past, the primordial giant crocodile clan was very prosperous. Their strength was far superior to the current Tenma people. However, because they challenged the status of the Green Sea Snake among the demonic beasts with the bloodline of the Flood Dragon, several great cultivators of the clan were almost all killed in a day. The entire primordial giant crocodile clan was suppressed and forced to go to the North Sea. After thousands of years of recuperation, they barely had the appearance of a large force. However, they no longer dared to set foot in the East Sea. Until recently, when Ma Chinsi and Li Tong came out of seclusion and knew what had happened, Ma Chinsi scolded her subordinates for being as timid as mice. These 3 green sea snakes only had the cultivation of the 7th level of the core forging realm. If the green sea snakes really wanted to fight for the Flood Dragon Bloodstone, why would they send their disciples with such low cultivation? Moreover, from the description of her subordinates, these 3 green sea snakes were obviously underage. However, they had such profound strength. It was obvious that they were the disciples of the green sea snakes who sneaked out to play. If they killed them without anyone knowing, not only would they get the Flood Dragon Bloodstone, they would also be able to steal the bloodline of these 3 green sea snakes. Why not? Chapter 791. Li Tong of the Khoi clan also had the same idea. He and Ma Chinsi did not have many scruples about the green sea snake like ordinary clansmen. Although the green sea snake was powerful, no matter how powerful it would not infiltrate into the western wilderness. First of all, if they could not get past the Crystal Palace, the 5 holy lands of the human clan in the central region would not agree to it. What's more, The green sea snake was only the strongest among the monster beasts with the flood dragon bloodline. It was not that there were no races in the demon clan that could compete with the green sea snake. The few tyrannical monster races that were not inferior to the green sea snake would not let this happen. However, just when Ma Chinsi and Li Tong led their respective subordinates to search for Samling, Samling had already realized that something was wrong and had already hidden away. However, the news about the flood dragon bloodstone had spread like wildfire among all the cultivators who entered the river source. The powerful rise of the Pegasus clan in the past 100 years and the legendary deeds of the Tima people, Ma Zhan, were all related to the flood dragon bloodstone. The effect of the flood dragon bloodstone was also known by many cultivators. More and more cultivators first followed the Pegasus clan and the Koi clan to search for Samling, and then began to organize themselves to search for Samling. With the expansion of the search team, although the river source was large, conflicts were inevitable. Although the various forces tried their best to suppress it, the relationship between them was already like fire and water. After hearing about the appearance of the green sea snake in the river source, Xie Tianyong could not help but frown, but then a smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Even the green sea snake is involved. This is interesting. Didn't the green sea snake already have the flood dragon bloodstone? Why would he be interested in the few pieces in the sacred lake and come all the way to the western wilderness? Interesting, really interesting. How can I miss out on such an interesting thing? Although Lu Ping had the intention to train Samling, he did not expect these three little guys to be able to perform so well. As Lu Ping made his way through the water net, he encountered several groups of cultivators who had joined forces to search for the Samling. Even though Lu Ping had advanced to the 9th stage of the core forging realm, he still felt his scalp go numb. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. Unfortunately, Debao's bloodline was that of a tiger, so he couldn't exist in this river source. Otherwise, with the help of Debao's nose, he might be able to find some clues here. The Samling should know that I will come out of seclusion soon. Previously, perhaps because he suddenly fought with someone, he didn't have time to leave a mark near the spiritual energy gathering place, or he was afraid of being discovered by the people who were hunting him. Now that the Samling is hiding, he will definitely leave a mark so that he can find the 3 of them. Although the Samling was hiding, the many cultivators who were searching for them became Lu Ping's targets, especially the cultivators of the Tima people and the Koi clan. They had been killing the Samling, so the area that the cultivators of these 2 clans were searching was most likely near the Samling's hiding place. As expected, Ma Chinsi and Li Tong had advanced to the peak of the core forging realm. Looking at the surging aura around them, it was obvious that their strength had made great progress, and they could advance to the transcendence stage at any time. It was already extremely difficult for Lu Ping to plot against Ma Chinsi alone. At this time, although Ma Chinsi and Li Tong were guarding against each other for the sake of the green sea snake and the flood dragon bloodstone, they had also joined forces. For Lu Ping, the 2 of them together were a thorny problem, not to mention that there were many elite disciples of the 2 clans around them. At this time, Lu Ping's divine sense moved, as if he had discovered something. A hint of joy appeared on his face. Lu Ping was about to make a move when Ma Chinsi and Li Tong, who were in the distance, seemed to have noticed something and looked in Lu Ping's direction. After a moment, the 2 of them suspiciously retracted their gazes, but Lu Ping had already disappeared. Brotherly, I am not as good as you in underwater skills. I wonder if you have discovered anything? Li Tong shook his head solemnly and said, No, it's just that this feeling is not right. I always feel that someone is spying on us in the dark. Yes, but there are very few people who can follow you and me without being discovered in this river source. Could it be Xie Tianyong? Don't forget Lu Xinping from the North Sea. Ma Chinsi suddenly remembered that Lu Ping had snuck within 300 feet of where the 3 of them were before he was caught. Her face couldn't help but sink. We lost his trace in the sacred lake. 5 years have passed, and we haven't seen him come out of the sacred lake. Could it be that the person just now is really him? Xie Tianyong's ability is not in the water. He has the highest possibility, but it's hard to say. Now that even the green sea snake has appeared, even if someone who is on par with you and me appears, we won't be surprised. Samling was indeed nearby. At this time, Lu Ping finally noticed the mark left by Samling. However, the cultivators of this generation of Pegasus and Koi clans were searching frequently. Obviously, they also realized that Samling was hiding nearby, so they completely surrounded this generation. It was just that he didn't know where Samling was hiding. He could actually hide in the encirclement of the two clans for such a long time. Lu Ping followed the map. He could sense that he was getting closer and closer to Samling's hiding place. At this moment, Lu Ping suddenly stopped in the water. He quietly maintained the shape of a ball of water light, not daring to move at all. How did he find this place? Could it be that he can also recognize the unique mark left by the green sea snake by Samling? Lu Ping quietly looked at the sparkling light in a pond not far away. From a distance, it looked like the light reflected by the water ripples. However, Lu Ping could tell at a glance that this was a brilliant concealment technique. It could use the light reflected by the water ripples to hide one's tracks. This person was none other than one of the 6 divine swords from Purple Sun Palace, Lesser Marsh Sword Xie Tianyang. At this time, Xie Tianyang was constantly changing his position with the light ripples. According to the mark Lu Ping had detected just now, there should be another mark left by Samling in the pond where Xie Tianyang was. If Lu Ping couldn't obtain this mark, then the clues to find Samling would be cut off. Lu Ping wasn't confident that he could sneak into the pond where Xie Tianyang was without being discovered by Xie Tianyang. This was because Lu Ping could sense that Xie Tianyang's cultivation was even higher than Ma Qinxi and Li Tong's. 5 years ago, the 4 of them had a chaotic battle in Sacred Lake. Lu Ping sensed that Xie Tianyang's strength might not be much higher than Ma Qinxi's and Li Tong's, but he was indeed stronger. 5 years later, Xie Tianyang seemed to have widened the gap between the two sides. Lu Ping looked at the constantly flickering light in the distance. No one knew what he was thinking about. After a moment, the corners of Lu Ping's mouth suddenly hung a trace of a smirk, and then the light of water retreated to the back. Report. Ma Qinxi's spirit rose, and she said, "Did you find something?" The cultivator of the Tenma people obviously didn't expect Ma Qinxi to ask so eagerly, and was suddenly stunned. Seeing that Ma Qinxi's joyful face was about to darken, the cultivator seemed to have woken up from a dream, and hurriedly said, "Not yet, but my subordinates found something else." Ma Qinxi impatiently waved her hand, and said, "Say it, say it." The cultivator of the Tenma people glanced at Li Tong, who was next to him. Seeing that Ma Qinxi was about to get angry, he hurriedly said, "Fourth young master, it's Xie Tianyang of Ziyang Palace. At this time, he is hiding in a pond less than 10 miles away from here. He seems to be searching, and seems to be waiting for something." Li Tong sneered and said, "If Xie Tianyang is hiding, can you find him?" The cultivator of the Tenma people's face turned red. Seeing that Ma Qinxi was about to get angry again, he hurriedly explained, "We naturally didn't find Xie Tianyang personally. It's that Zhang Jiming of the Western Desolate Palace. He has a strange treasure in his hands that can easily find hidden cultivators. We sent several clansmen to follow him, but they were all easily shaken off. However, he didn't guard against the disciples of some of our clan's subsidiary clans. Zhang Jiming has already secretly gathered a group of people for the Spear Dragon Bloodstone. In order to prove to everyone that he has already grasped the clues to the hiding place of the Green Sea Snake, he leaked the news that Xie Tianyang was hiding in the pond ahead to win everyone's trust." Ma Qinxi looked at Li Tong and said, "The divine searching mirror of the Western Desolate Palace. Other than this item, there is nothing else." Previously, that Lu Xianping intended to follow the cultivators of the Western Desolate Palace into the land of the river source, but unexpectedly, Zhang Jiming used the divine searching mirror to backstab him, and he was almost injured by the hands of the third brother. There should be no mistake. Li Tong pondered for a moment, then suddenly raised his head, looked at Ma Qinxi, and said, "Brother Ma, don't forget our agreement. This time, I will help you. The number of Spear Dragon Bloodstones will be split 40 to 60. You get 60, I get 40. The Koi clan was not as powerful as the Tenma people, so the Tenma people naturally wouldn't split the treasure equally with the Koi clan. Good. Ma Qinxi was overjoyed and said, "As long as you and I join forces, that Xie Tianyang will definitely not be our opponent. After all, Xie Tianyang is a cultivator of the human race. and he comes from the Purple Sun Palace, so he is the common enemy of our demon race. However, we still have to be careful of that Lu Xinping. This person has not shown himself until now, and his strength is on par with ours. We really have to be on guard against him. Brother Li is right, but this time, we naturally won't spar with him. If he interferes, our brothers in the clan might bully him with numbers. If we get rid of him, wouldn't there be one less competitor in the cultivation world? Could it be that Zhenling, who is far away in the North Sea, would still dare to stand up for him? Although these words were directed at Lu Ping, the two of them were clear in their hearts that the same logic could also be applied to Xie Tianyang, and the value of getting rid of Xie Tianyang was even greater than getting rid of Lu Xinping, who told Xie Tianyang to be alone and even have his hiding place discovered. Ma Chenxi and Li Tong didn't mind getting rid of a competitor for their own future, let alone a competitor from the Purple Sun Palace. To be on the safe side, the two of them still brought their own clan's disciples to outflank Xie Tianyang's location. Ma Chenxi and Li Tong also understood that for a person like Xie Tianyang, even if the two of them joined forces, although they could defeat him, it was absolutely impossible to make him stay. Since that was the case, they could only combine the strength of everyone. Even if they couldn't make him stay, they had to beat him until he was in pain, cripple him, and beat him until he no longer had the ability to compete with opponents of the same level. Chapter 792. Lu Ping naturally knew that Zhang Zhiming had a treasure that could detect and hide his tracks. In fact, this was also an important reason why Zhang Zhiming could gather a portion of the cultivators who entered the river source. With the God-searching mirror, as long as they found the right direction, they might be able to find the hidden green sea snake. What Lu Ping wanted to do was to beat him at his own game, but he didn't expect that the effect of the art of sea deception would be so amazing after it was upgraded. It made Lu Ping, who had thought of several countermeasures, feel that it was too easy. Although Zhang Zhiming's God-searching mirror could easily find the people hiding around, it was not enough to distinguish the identity of the people hiding. Lu Ping used the art of sea deception to transform into Xie Tianyang's appearance, and easily led Zhang Zhiming to the vicinity of the lake where Xie Tianyang was hiding. After that, Lu Ping took the opportunity to get rid of Zhang Zhiming's tracking, and Zhang Zhiming then found the real Xie Tianyang hiding in the lake. What happened next was as Lu Ping expected. The actions of Zhang Zhiming and the others really couldn't be hidden from the Tenma people and the Koi people. Just when Zhang Zhiming led a group of cultivators to the location where Xie Tianyang was, Ma Chenxi and Li Tong were already preparing to attack Xie Tianyang from the front and back. Ma Chenxi didn't know that a huge net that was plotting against him was already slowly coming towards his head, and Xie Tianyang was also caught in the crossfire even though he was lying down. He was actually surrounded by nearly 100 cultivators from 3 parties, and he didn't even know why. Ma Chenxi flew at low altitude with 20 to 30 Tenma people cultivators. The dozens of Tenma cultivators had different levels of cultivation, and they pulled out a distance of tens of feet at low altitude. At this moment, Ma Chenxi, who was flying at the front, suddenly stopped. The Tenma people cultivators behind him didn't know what was going on, and when they looked around, they heard Ma Chenxi suddenly shouted in a deep voice, "Who is it? Come out." As soon as Ma Chenxi's voice fell, the Tenma people cultivators who came with him didn't know what was going on, and when they looked around, they heard Ma Chenxi suddenly shouted, "Who is it? Come out." Many of the Heavenly Horse clan cultivators had just turned around when they felt a strong wind beside their ears. When they looked up, Ma Chenxi had already arrived at the place where the scream came from. A Tenma people cultivator who had just advanced to the late stage of core forging realm had fallen to the ground with his eyes wide open. There was a bowl-sized hole in his chest, his heart had been smashed, and a storage magic tool at his waist had been taken. Just when Ma Chenxi arrived, 2 light had already flashed in the sky. The cultivators seemed to be extremely proficient in the way, and they didn't give the Tenma people a chance to chase. Ma Chenxi was furious, and the light under her feet flashed, and she had already chased after the 2 figures in front of her. The Tenma people cultivators behind her hurriedly followed, but under Ma Chenxi's full speed, the distance between him and these cultivators was getting further and further away. A Tenma people cultivator who had been following behind Ma Chinsi was chasing after Ma Chinsi, and at the same time, he looked at the cultivator on the ground and said in a low voice, "Ma gang." Back then he was also a person who was praised by the leader. What a pity. No wonder fourth young master is so anxious. A few Tenma people cultivators who were in the 8th and 9th stage of the core forging realm caught up and asked him, "Ma Zhongshan, just now you and fourth young master were the fastest. Did you see clearly who the person who attacked Ma gang was?" "Who else could it be? It's the infamous lone killer Lei Laolu of the Western Wilderness. Back then, I heard that he was also someone who could injure a Dharma adept as a late-stage core forging realm cultivator. However, 100 years ago, he had too many enemies in Central Plains, so he came to the Western Wilderness to settle down. I didn't expect him to also come this time, but the strange thing is that he actually has helped this time. Without help, he dares to provoke the Tenma people?" Ma Zhongshan's nostrils puffed out a gust of hot air and said, "That direction is where the motley crew that Zhang Jiming gathered is, right?" Although the cultivator of Tenma felt that this matter was a little strange, he still replied, "Yes, could it be that this Lei Laolu and Zhang Jiming are in cahoots? That Lei Laolu is indeed audacious, but without the support of the Western Wilderness Palace, even if you gave him 100 guts, he still wouldn't dare to brazenly assassinate a cultivator of our clan." Ma Zhongshan suddenly stopped, and the many cultivators of the Tenma people behind him also stopped. Ma Zhongshan turned to the cultivators of the Tenma people and said, "Let's not chase after fourth young master for now. We can't catch up even if we want to. Right now, it's best for us to gather together and use our 10,000 galloping horses demon soldier formation to meet up with Li Tong of the Koi clan at the lake where Xie Tianyang is. Fourth young master isn't here. We can't let anyone else take advantage of us." "Then what about fourth young master? He is chasing after them alone. If anything happens to him, we won't be able to get away with it. The other party has the advantage in numbers." Ma Zhongshan raised his eyebrows and said proudly, "Do you think Zhang Jiming and those other good-for-nothings can stop fourth young master? Among cultivators of the same level as us, even Xie Tianyang of the Ziyang Palace can't defeat fourth young master." But the other cultivators of the Tenma people originally wanted to say something, but they heard Ma Zhongshan say, "Fourth young master will definitely be fine. Everyone, don't forget why we entered the river source. The stone of flood dragon blood is of great importance." This time, the news was leaked for no reason, causing us and the Koi clan to be quite passive. Otherwise, Zhang Jiming wouldn't have gathered so many cultivators to go against us. Seeing that the other cultivators of the Tenma people were listening to him, Ma Zhongshan smiled proudly in his heart and said, "Don't worry about fourth young master. He has always been arrogant, and his strength is there for all to see. Normally, he doesn't even listen to the words of the patriarch, but who would dare to disobey the patriarch's orders?" The cultivators of the Tenma people all shook their heads. How could they dare to compare themselves to Ma Chinsi? Ma Zhan's prestige in the Tenma people was very high. He was a person of his word, and his rules were strict. Many of the younger generation of the Tenma people were both respectful and afraid of him. Even Ma Chengwang and the others were extremely afraid of him. Only Ma Chinsi dared to go against his own father, but he had never been punished. Ma Zhongshan continued, "The stone of flood dragon blood was specially ordered by the patriarch. Fourth young master can ignore it, but we can't. If we are late, and that green sea snake escapes and falls into the hands of Xie Tianyang, or is captured by Li Tong and the others, then we will have to bear the wrath of the patriarch." Not to mention that Ma Chinsi had gained a subordinate who thought he was smart. He didn't even know that there was no backup behind him. Even if he knew, with Ma Chinsi's arrogant personality, he wouldn't take it to heart. After that sixth brother Lei killed a cultivator of the Tenma people, although he was closely chased by Ma Chinsi, as an assassin, sixth brother Lei was able to move unhindered in the cultivation world for many years without being killed by anyone, so he naturally had his own set of skills. Just this escape technique alone was quite unique. Ma Chinsi looked at sixth brother Lei, who had been playing hide and seek with her for almost an hour, and finally slowed down because of the large amount of true essence in his body. She couldn't help but nod her head. It was just that his cultivation method was a bit lacking. Otherwise, it would really take some effort to catch up to this person. But who was the cultivator that was following sixth brother Lei? Although this person didn't seem to have an escape technique like sixth brother Lei, but with sixth brother Lei's help, he was able to persist until now, so he could be considered to have some ability. Otherwise, it wouldn't be difficult for sixth brother Lei to persist for another hour. Seeing that sixth brother Lei was about to be caught up by Ma Chinsi, he saw a cloud of white mist on the meadow in front of him. Sixth brother Lei saw the cloud of white mist and was instantly overjoyed. He dragged the cultivator behind him and plunged headfirst into the white mist. Playing this kind of trick in front of this young master, what's the use? There was a hint of contempt in Ma Chinsi's mouth. Her figure did not stop at all. A huge divine thought with the coercion that only a Dharma manifestation stage could have, like a gust of wind, entered the white fog first. Then, the cyan escape light that Ma Chinsi's figure transformed into also disappeared in the white fog. The meadow suddenly became quiet. Only the 2 to 3 feet long grass on the ground was constantly swaying in the wind caused by Ma Chinsi's light. The white mist didn't change in the slightest after Ma Chinsi entered. It was still like a cloud that fell on the ground, changing shape with the breeze. But there wasn't the slightest movement coming from inside. In the white mist, after sixth brother Lei and the cultivator behind him entered the white mist together, sixth brother Lei's body softened and fell to the ground. Fortunately, this sixth brother Lei was an assassin. Although the cultivation method and the true essence condensed in his body were ordinary, his willpower was first class, which made the cultivator behind him quite admire. Sixth brother Lei turned to look at the cultivator behind him and said fiercely, "I've done what I promised. Now I've even offended the Tenma people and am being chased by that fourth brother Ma. What else do you want?" The cultivator behind him smiled silently and didn't say anything. He turned his body slightly back, seemingly checking where Ma Chinsi had gone. Sixth brother Lei saw that this person didn't care about him, but as an assassin, how could sixth brother Lei not have a backup plan? A small blue poisonous needle floated behind sixth brother Lei's palm that was supporting the ground. It seemed that now was the best time to send this poisonous needle into the body of the person in front of him. Sixth brother Lei's expression changed, but in the end he still pressed the poisonous needle into his body, returning to the core space along his blood vessels. Sixth brother Lei wasn't stupid, although his escape technique was considered excellent, but if it wasn't for this person's strong true essence, even 2 of him wouldn't be able to escape from Ma Chinsi. He also saw that the person this person wanted to plot against was Ma Chinsi. He, sixth brother Lei, was very clear about what kind of person Ma Chinsi was. A person who dared to plot against Ma Chinsi was definitely not someone he could afford to offend. The cultivator expressionlessly looked back at sixth brother Lei, and sixth brother Lei suddenly felt a chill. It seemed that everything he did just now was under the control of the cultivator in front of him. At least you have some self-awareness, but I am quite interested in the poison on your poisonous needle. After this matter, you will stay by my side. That poison may be of some use to me. Sixth brother Lei's face turned pale. Sure enough, everything he did could not hide in front of this person. Thinking of the suffering he had suffered in the hands of this person before, sixth brother Lei couldn't help but feel discouraged. In the end, as if he had accepted his fate, he simply sat cross-legged on the ground and began to restore the true essence in his body. The cultivator looked at sixth brother Lei and found it a little funny. Then he saw the cultivator's figure shed like a stream of water. At this moment, an overwhelming pressure rushed in from outside the white mist. Lu Ping took off the sea deception technique and looked in the direction of the pressure with some surprise. He didn't expect that Ma Chinsi's divine sense cultivation was not weak. Her cultivation was at the peak of the core forging stage, but her divine sense cultivation was not weaker than that of a transcendent stage cultivator. Moreover, she had completely awakened the flood dragon bloodline. Presumably, the golden core in the core space had already begun to nurture a transcendence embryo. Chapter 793. Lu Ping was now making use of the time difference. He wanted to kill Ma Chinsi before the practitioners of the Tenma people came to support her. Therefore, Lu Ping did not hesitate to risk exposing his identity and kidnapped this sixth Lei to be his own bait. Fortunately, after Lu Ping condensed the art of deceiving the heavens and seas into a great talisman, this technique seemed to be more and more mysterious, as if it really had the magical effect of deceiving the heavens and seas. Ma Chinsi chased behind for nearly an hour, but she did not notice that the person beside Sixth Lei, who looked like a burden, was the biggest reason why Sixth Lei could persist for so long under her pursuit. The only thing that Lu Ping did not expect was that the practitioners of the Tenma people did not follow Ma Chinsi this time, under the persuasion of a person who thought he was smart. However, this accident would not benefit Ma Chinsi in the slightest. Lu Ping did not know that the practitioners of the Tenma people did not chase after him, so this time he had to go all out. An elite disciple of a large force like Ma Chinsi must have endless magic treasures on her, and countless life-saving methods. If he could not kill her in an extreme time, once this person was free, even if he still could not win against Lu Ping, it would be extremely difficult for Lu Ping to kill this person. Fortunately, so far, everything was still going according to Lu Ping's expectations. The pressure of Ma Chinsi's divine thoughts directly broke through the maze formed by the white fog and startled Sixth Lei, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, awake from his meditative state. His face became pale and weak, and he muttered, "It's over, it's over." With this kind of strength, even the idiot in the early Dharma stage who was almost killed by me might not be her opponent. This time I'm dead for sure. Sixth Lei still wanted to say something, but he saw that Lu Ping suddenly turned his head and looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. Sixth Lei's throat was in a mess, but he finally swallowed the words back into his stomach. Then Sixth Lei's eyes widened again, because he saw that at the feet of Lu Ping, a white lotus emitting a dense color suddenly appeared out of thin air. Lu Ping stood on the lotus throne as the petals around him bloomed one by one. The petals flickered with talisman patterns that looked like nimble tadpoles. Then, 12 light beams condensed from pure true essence suddenly shot out in 12 different directions in the white mist. In the white fog, 12 thicker clouds of fog suddenly condensed. When the 12 beams of light shot out, the 12 clouds of fog suddenly whistled and dispersed, and then turned into 12 strange dragons made of spiritual qi, setting off endless waves of fog in the white fog. Sixth Lei could clearly feel that at this time, the entire white fog had turned into an impenetrable cage. Formation diagram. That lotus is a formation diagram, a spirit-nurturing level formation diagram, and there are 12 formation bases, which are actually spirit-nurturing level magic treasures. He has actually already set up the formation bases here. This is a natal formation. How is this possible? How is this possible? Sixth Lei watched as Lu Ping suddenly set up the natal gentian formation, and the expression on his face could no longer be described as one of shock, but more like he had seen a ghost. Lu Ping once again turned back to look at the dumbfounded Sixth Lei, and said with some surprise, "I didn't expect a lone bandit like you to have such knowledge. Looks like there are still many stories about you." Sixth Lei was shocked, but his eyeballs could not help but look at the constantly changing wind and clouds around him, as if there was something there that he could not resist. He is clearly only at the 9th level of core forging. How can he set up the natal formation? The natal formation requires a huge amount of spiritual yuan, and it is said that only the rare geniuses of the 5 great holy lands can accumulate enough spiritual yuan to activate the natal formation after advancing to the Dharma phase. This Lu Xianping is only a disciple of an ordinary sect in the North Sea. How can he be more powerful than the direct disciples of the 5 great holy lands? 13 spirit-nurturing magic treasures. This, even the most powerful 7 ultimate sky-hurt sword of the Ziyang Palace could only barely control 7 spirit-nurturing flying swords to set up the 7 ultimate sky-hurt sword formation after advancing to the Dharma phase. He was also known as the Ziyang Palace's first person in 3,000 years. If Sixth Brother Lei didn't dare to think any further. Just at this moment, a loud sound rang out from the depths of the white fog, followed by a scream filled with terror. Sixth Brother Lei knew that this time, Ma Chinsi of the Heavenly Pegasus clan was going to suffer a huge setback. Ma Chinsi only had 2 things to do in the river source this time. One was to condense a 9th level golden core, which would give him the confidence to achieve the same achievements as his father in the future. The second was to find the Dragon Bloodstone, which was the foundation for the rise of the Pegasus clan, to dominate the western wilderness, and even to challenge the status of the Green Sea Snake in the future. It was also the key to whether Ma Chinsi could achieve greater achievements than his father in the future. Now that he had completed one task, as long as he could get the Dragon Bloodstone, Ma Chinsi was confident that in the future, his achievements would inevitably surpass his father, and the Pegasus clan could even completely overturn the status of the Green Sea Snake as the #1 clan of the Flood Dragon bloodline. With a resolute might, Ma Chinsi's figure followed her divine sense and crashed into the white fog. Thus, there was the cry of alarm filled with fear just now. Life Source Array. As the most outstanding disciple of the Tenma people, Ma Chinsi not only had the best cultivation among his peers, but his insight was also not bad. Just after Ma Chinsi crashed into the white mist, the whole white mist rolled, and without a trace of warning, a huge Yuan Qi cage had already enveloped this part of the world. 12 strange Yuan Qi giant dragons were faintly discernible in the white mist. It was really difficult to see their heads and tails, but it had already blocked all his escape routes. This was a plot against him that had been premeditated for a long time. Fourth young Master Ma immediately reacted, but unfortunately, at this time, he had already broken in. In the white mist, the pressure that Ma Chinsi brought previously was not weaker than the pressure of the Dharma phase stage. In front of this life source array was like a clay ox entering the sea. A joke? Who is it? Ma Chinsi asked in a stern voice, who set up such a trap to make things difficult for me? In the empty space, only Ma Chinsi's stern voice kept echoing, as if it was constantly helping Ma Chinsi vent the trace of uneasiness that was mixed in the roar. How could he not know that in the cultivation world, no one could set up a life source array at the core forging stage? But now if he was not trapped in someone else's life source array, then what was it? A Dharma phase cultivator? Absolutely impossible. In the tens of thousands of years, when had a Dharma phase cultivator ever broken into the land of the river source? Moreover, a Dharma phase cultivator who could set up a life source array would not need to go through so much trouble to plot against him. Most likely, he would not even be able to withstand a few of the other's magical powers. Could it be that there was really someone who could set up a life source array at the core forging stage? Thinking of this, Ma Chinsi's mind calmed down. Even if someone could set up this life source array, so what? Could he activate it? Even if he activated it, could it last long? As long as he risked his life to withstand one or two of the opponent's attacks, this life source array would definitely collapse because of the opponent's inner Yuan. At that time, it would be up to him to decide whether to stay or leave. Ma Chinsi touched the storage ring on his finger. There were 3 registration items that he got from his father, thinking that there was still hope for him to withstand one or two of the opponent's attacks. From the moment Ma Chinsi broke in to the moment he realized that he had been tricked, it was only a short moment. Just as Ma Chinsi's mind was spinning and he reached out to touch the storage instrument on his finger, in the empty space of white fog, a cold and clear voice suddenly sounded, "Strike the god." The white fog suddenly rolled like boiling water, and 12 strange Yuanqi dragons rushed towards Ma Chinsi together. When each giant Yuanqi dragon flew, it would draw a white fog mark in the sky, and each fog mark seemed to appear out of thin air. Without waiting for one to dissipate, another had already formed in the sky. For a moment, it was as if there were countless Yuanqi in the sky, with Ma Chinsi as the center, weaving a dense net of Yuanqi. The moment the opponent made his move, Ma Chinsi knew that the opponent wanted to end the battle quickly, so he was even more certain of his previous guess. Launching such a large-scale formation, although powerful, would not last long. Once the opponent's inner Yuan was exhausted, she would definitely be able to escape. As long as she left the land of the river source, she would definitely tell her father about this as soon as possible. This person could actually use a life source array at the core forging stage and also become enemies with the Pegasus clan. If this person were to advance to the Dharma phase in the future, how many people in the world would be able to stop him? She had to kill this person before he grew up. Ma Chinsi did not bring out her magic treasures. Instead, a golden-colored talisman appeared in her hand. She tore the talisman apart and a golden light suddenly blossomed. A golden sphere of light suddenly appeared, surrounding Ma Chenxi. Next, golden thorns shot out from the sphere of light in all directions. Lu Ping, who was also hidden in the white fog, frowned. Talisman weapon. That might not be able to save your life. Countless golden lights shot out, but they were all swallowed up by the 12 giant Yuanqi dragons in front of Ma Chenxi's shocked gaze. Others might not know the power of the talisman weapon in her hand, but Ma Chenxi herself knew very well that this talisman weapon was definitely not a talisman weapon made by an ordinary Dharma adept that had sealed his own remarkable powers. Instead, it was personally made by her father, the leader of the Pegasus clan, Ma Zhan. Not only was this a defensive talisman weapon, but the golden thorns that shot out from the golden ball were also sealed within it by Ma Zhan's own remarkable powers, the divine wind thorn. A talisman weapon that could seal two great magical powers within it meant that the person who made it was not an ordinary person. Not only that, but the leader of the Tenma people had also sealed two great magical powers, one offensive and one defensive, that he had achieved when he had advanced to the Dharma phase and the middle Dharma phase. The value of this talisman weapon was no less than a top-notch spirit-nurturing treasure. Chapter 794. Three Little Fellows, how much longer are you going to hide? Xie Tianyang's body turned into a fiery ball of light and floated above the lake. The glaring light on the ball of light expanded and contracted, and the scorching heat waves roasted the lake water below. Only after reaching a distance of 500 feet did a faint white mist rise into the air. The water level of the lake that was several dozen feet deep was rapidly decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Hee, although the green sea snakes are known as the spirits of the water, you three are still too inexperienced. You dare to enter the central plains with such low cultivation, and even come to this desolate western wilderness? You must have gone out to play without telling the adults in your families, right? Xie Tianyang's words came out from the fiery ball of light. The lake had already shrunk by a third, and the water level had also dropped by nearly 10 feet. However, there was still no movement from the lake. Xie Tianyang frowned, and a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. Then, he chuckled and continued, "Although I am from the Xiang Palace, I am not afraid of you green sea snakes. However, I do not want to offend you for no reason. I believe there is more than one flood dragon bloodstone. I only want half of it. You three can take the rest. I am even willing to help you three escape from the source of the river and escape the pursuit of the Tenma people and Koi clan. What do you think?" There was still no movement from the lake. Xie Tianyang's tone gradually turned cold. "Since you are unwilling to cooperate, I will have to use force." Xie Tianyang stretched out his hand, and a raging flame immediately ignited in his palm. As the flame burned, it extended forward. A moment later, a flaming long sword gradually took shape in Xie Tianyang's hand. The Li Fire Celestial Sun Sword had undergone a major change compared to before Xie Tianyang entered the sacred lake. The entire flying sword now seemed to have no substance, and only a dazzling blue flame with a hint of white was left. The Li Fire Celestial Yang Sword slowly rose from Xie Tianyang's hand. The violent energy that was brewing within it made it impossible for anyone to doubt that the moment this flying sword slashed down, the entire lake beneath Xie Tianyang's feet would evaporate, and the surrounding tens of feet would become a scorched desert. The great divine sword technique of the Purple Sun Palace, a single spark makes a great fire, was originally a set of fire elemental techniques, but Xie Tianyang had successfully mastered it using his sword techniques. He had even been praised by the Dharma adepts of the Purple Sun Palace, who had named this set of sword techniques the Heavenly Sun Sword Technique and had been passed down in the Purple Sun Palace. With a core forging cultivation level, Xie Tianyang was able to transform the sect's 10,000 years of inheritance, which had been tempered hundreds and thousands of times. Furthermore, he had received unanimous praise from the sect's upper echelons. This Xie Tianyang could be said to be the #1 person among the third-generation disciples of the Purple Sun Palace who had yet to advance to a Dharma artifact. However, Xie Tianyang's Li Fire Celestial Yang Sword did not slash at the pool of water beneath his feet. Instead, it drew a strange arc in the air and suddenly stabbed behind him. Bang! After a crisp sound, Xie Tianyang's body suddenly lunged forward, and then he slowly turned around, only to see Li Tong still retreating in the air with a look of surprise on his face. "Brotherly, this is not right of you." Xie Tianyang's words were light and charming, but there was not the slightest hint of playfulness on his face. Oomph! Li Tong's sneak attack had failed, and he had instead been forced back by Xie Tianyang's sword. He knew that he was in the wrong, but he did not refute it. He only snorted coldly, but his heart was in turmoil. His attack could be said to have used all his strength, and it was also a sneak attack, but this Xie Tianyang actually resolved it so easily. Furthermore, the power of his counterattack was so turbulent that he almost suffered a loss. Could it be that this person had hidden his strength before this? Xie Tianyang saw that Li Tong did not reply and only pointed the flying sword in his hand at him from afar. A cold sword aura with a chilling, murderous aura permeated through the air. He was going to kill him. It was unknown when the sneer on Xie Tianyang's face had disappeared, but his divine sense slowly extended in all directions. He said, "Could it be that Brother Li thinks that you can do anything to me? I don't know where Brother Ma is right now, but since Brother Li has revealed his killing intent, I can only ask Brother Ma to join forces." The corner of Li Tong's mouth revealed a trace of a mocking smile. Xie Tianyang's expression immediately changed. "So you really have a helper?" Several kilometers behind Li Tong, specks of light suddenly appeared. A moment later, these specks of light formed a variety of colors, falling towards Li Tong's back. Xie Tianyang suddenly came to a realization. So it was this Xie who leaked my whereabouts. Brother Li deliberately came to kill me, and not by chance. Moreover, you also plan to gang up on me. Unfortunately, Brother Li's method is not enough to keep me here. After saying that, the light beneath Xie Tianyang's feet flashed. Clearly, he would retreat the moment he sensed that something was amiss. However, as Samling, who had been hiding in the pool of water, did not reveal himself, Xie Tianyang held onto a sliver of hope that Samling did not know why he was hiding here. At that moment, a series of firecracker-like sounds suddenly rang out from the direction opposite Li Tong. Violent spiritual energy fluctuations spread all the way there, causing Li Tong's face to sink. He waved his hand, and the Koi clan cultivators behind him quickly flanked him from both sides. The flying sword in Li Tong's hand flashed, and he took the lead in attacking Xie Tianyang. Although Xie Tianyang was confident that his strength was above Li Tong's, he did not dare to fall into a situation where the Koi clan was ganging up on him. With a flash of light, he escaped the encirclement of the Koi clan cultivators. With the exception of Li Tong, none of the other Koi clan cultivators could keep up with Xie Tianyang's speed. "All right." Xie Tianyang blocked Li Tong's attempts to get close to him while saying in a mocking tone, "This Xie has underestimated you fellows. I believe the one coming from the other side is fourth young Master Ma. Are you fellows planning on a pincer attack? A pity. The heavens do not grant the wishes of men." Li Tong let out a muffled groan, and the flying sword in his hand suddenly turned into countless sword rays that swam towards Xie Tianyang from all directions. At first glance, it actually looked similar to Lu Ping's water seep sword art. A flaming lotus abruptly blossomed above Xie Tianyang's head, and a clump of scorching white light suddenly appeared around him. No matter how many fish made of sword light approached Xie Tianyang, they would all be roasted into wisps of smoke. Xie Tianyang was just about to open his mouth to ridicule Li Tong when he saw the Koi clan cultivators who had wanted to surround him earlier stop. After Xie Tianyang retreated, the encirclement they had formed earlier happened to encircle the lake. A trace of vexation flashed across Xie Tianyang's face. Since the other party could discover that he was hiding here, how could they not figure out his objective? However, it had become a habit for the great forces to kill off the disciples with potential from the other side. Thus, when Xie Tianyang saw Li Tong charging towards him aggressively, he assumed that Li Tong was here for him. At this time, Xie Tianyang wanted to move forward but was stopped by Li Tong. Although Xie Tianyang was confident that his strength was above Li Tong's, it was impossible for him to defeat Li Tong in a short period of time. As the cultivators of the Koi clan were about to form a battle formation around the lake, they suddenly heard the sound of explosions coming from behind them. The explosions were getting closer and closer. Then, they saw a chaotic stream of light, mixed with the roars of countless spells and the clashing of magic treasures, smashing into the lake that the Koi clan had surrounded like a meteor falling from the sky. Chaos, complete chaos. Just as Li Tong launched a sneak attack on Xie Tianyang, the cultivators of the Pegasus clan, led by the cultivator who thought himself to be smart, had also approached the vicinity of the lake. If not for Ma Chinxi's pursuit of sixth brother Lei, the Timma people and the Koi clan might have formed a pincer attack and surrounded Xie Tianyang. However, it wasn't too late. Just as the Tenma people sped up and prepared to converge with the Koi clan, dozens of cultivators from the source of the river suddenly charged out. Both sides were shocked when they suddenly met. The Tenma people were after all used to being arrogant. The Tenma people cultivator at the front didn't think and stretched out his leg. A huge energy giant foot directly charged towards the closest cultivator among the dozens of cultivators that were dozens of feet away. A scream broke the strange situation between the two sides. Zhang Jiming was the leader of the dozens of cultivators. He was the first to yell, "You've gone too far. Everyone, let's attack together and kill." Actually, there was no need for Zhang Jiming to instigate. The dozens of cultivators had already fought back. The Timma people naturally wouldn't show any weakness. Both sides immediately tangled together in mid-air. After Zhang Jiming finished yelling, he shrank his body and wanted to escape from the chaotic battle. He had gathered so many cultivators and naturally knew that his side was just a motley crew. Although he had the advantage in numbers, he didn't have the cohesion of the Tenma people. He could collapse at any time. However, when he wanted to leave, someone had already targeted him. Zhang Jiming. It seems that Western Wilderness Palace can only do some shady business of sowing discord. The cultivator who temporarily acted as the leader of the Tenma people had already noticed Zhang Jiming the moment the two sides met. Zhang Jiming's expression didn't change. He stretched out his hand and pointed. The Tenma people cultivator was stunned, but suddenly felt something strange behind him. He turned around and struck out with his palm. A violent wave of spiritual energy collided with the thing behind him, and another spiritual energy storm exploded. Art of Heaven and Earth Reversal. The Heavenly P clan cultivator shouted, and the stream of light beneath his feet suddenly transformed into 4 horse hooves. Instantly, the Heavenly P clan cultivator transformed into a beam of light to rapidly circle Zhang Jiming, not giving Zhang Jiming the opportunity to utilize the Western Desolation Palace's formidable magic technique that was renowned for. Both sides already knew that Xie Tianyang might have found the green sea snake in its location. Although both sides were in a chaotic battle, they intentionally or unintentionally moved towards the direction of the lake. This just happened to cause chaos among the Tenma people cultivators who were setting up formations around the lake. Li Tong's expression changed. He turned around and was about to attack. This time, Xie Tianyang stuck close to him and swept his sword horizontally, forcing Li Tong to retreat. However, Xie Tianyang laughed and said, "Interesting, interesting. This kind of chaotic battle is rare. Brother Li, don't be in a hurry to command your people. Although the Pegasus clan has come, Brother Ma hasn't come as well." Li Tong's expression froze. Before he could turn around to look, in the depths of the river source, a loud, dull sound suddenly rang out. Li Tong and Xie Tianyang both stared blankly for a moment, before both sides simultaneously stopped fighting. Both of them could hear that something was wrong from the muffled sound, and could see the astonishment on both sides' faces. Since when can Dharma adepts enter the river source? This was the only thought left in the minds of both of them. Chapter 795. Under Ma Chinxi's incredulous gaze, this talisman weapon that was personally made by his father, the leader of the Tenma people, Ma Zhan, was so easily torn apart by these 12 strange mist dragons. How could the power of a natal formation be so great? Could it be that there really were Dharma adepts who used special methods to enter the source of the river? Ma Chinzi absolutely did not believe that the natural trigram would have such power in the hands of a core forging adept, and that it could even last for such a long time. Even if it was a Dharma adept who used such a powerful natural trigram, there would not be much essential yuan left. In Ma Chinzi's memory, only people like her father would begin to use their life treasures as the core to construct their natal spirit arrays after advancing to the Dharma stage. Only after advancing to the mid-Dharma stage would they be able to use their natal spirit arrays without fear. As for other Dharma adepts, after attaining their natural mystique, they would only be able to construct their natural mystique when they reached the mid-Dharma stage. Only after becoming a great Dharma adept would they be able to use their natural mystique freely. This was also the main reason why Ma Zhan was able to suppress the Pegasus Great Dharma Adept and secure his position as the leader of the Pegasus clan when he was only at the mid-Dharma stage. But now, Ma Chinzi saw something. There was actually someone who could control the natal formation and attack her for such a long time. It must be a Dharma Adept. It must be a Dharma Adept. The 12 giant Yuan Qi dragons were once again like a white landscape painting, turning into various lines in the sky and rushing toward Ma Chinzi. However, Ma Chinzi took out a bunch of small wings from her storage magic tool. Ma Chinzi flung the wings, and the pair of silver wings instantly expanded in the sky. Then, they stuck between Ma Chinzi's ribs. Ma Chinzi's entire body instantly turned into a green line of wind. She shuttled back and forth between the 12 giant energy dragons, but she was unable to hurt them at all. At this moment, she heard 2 cold words from the white fog. Ding hai. Ma Chinzi, who had originally used this pair of silver wings to escape from Lu Ping's Jinshin formation and secretly relaxed for a moment, had a bad premonition when she heard the 2 cold words from the white fog again. Ma Chinzi flapped the wings around her waist, preparing to deal with the attack from the formation at any time. Unexpectedly, Ma Chinzi's body suddenly froze. Ma Chinzi then realized that the surrounding spiritual qi had actually solidified. Ma Chinzi used her flying technique, using her inner yuan as a guide, but could not borrow any spiritual power. At this moment, Ma Chinzi's soul almost flew out of his body. A wave of white mist was already rushing towards his chest. This time, Ma Chinzi could clearly see that within the flood dragon formed by the wave of white mist, there was a faintly discernible pearl overflowing with spiritual qi. There was no way Ma Chinzi would sit and wait for death. When cultivators cast divine abilities and magic arts, they mostly use their own true essence as a guide, thereby guiding the surrounding spiritual qi to form an extremely powerful power. In this process, although the cultivator's true essence would be consumed, it was at most a guide, and the consumption would not be too great. Otherwise, if these divine abilities and magic arts were all powerful, how many magic arts could they cast with the support of the true essence in the cultivator's body? But now, Ma Chinzi couldn't care so much. The surrounding spiritual qi was sealed by the opponent's calming divine power, causing Ma Chinzi to not be able to guide a trace of spiritual qi. At the juncture of life and death, he naturally wouldn't be stingy with the inner yuan in his body. A 10,000 galloping horses divine power that was passed down by the direct descendants of the Tenma people was fully activated by Ma Chinzi with his own inner yuan. The surrounding spiritual qi that seemed to be frozen was shattered by Ma Chinzi's divine power. Ma Chinzi finally regained control of his body in a certain space. Ma Chinzi didn't dare to be negligent. He put his hands together in front of his chest, and a palm-sized jade talisman appeared from Ma Chinzi's chest. Within this jade talisman, there were strands of green thread-like things. The moment the jade talisman appeared in front of Ma Chinzi, it completely melted. Strands of green silk intertwined together and slowly condensed into a 3-foot-wide canopy above Ma Chinzi's head. Strands of silk hung down from the canopy. The white mist dragon that was the Jinshin pearl smashed into the layers of silk, creating a 1-foot-deep depression. However, the Jinshin pearl was ultimately unable to break through the obstruction of the canopy. It was actually a spirit cultivation level 9 defensive magic treasure, and the silk that was sealed within the jade talisman was also clearly seen by Lu Ping. It was most likely refined from the horse mane of the Tenma people. Countless silk ribbons pierced through the skin formed by the condensed mist of the giant dragon, and entangled towards the gentian pearl in the belly of the giant dragon. At this time, it wanted to capture the gentian pearl. Ma Chenxi understood that this pearl was definitely an important part of the life origin spell formation. As long as she captured this pearl, even if she couldn't break the life origin spell formation, she would definitely be able to greatly weaken the spell formation. However, not waiting for Ma Chenxi to succeed, this gentian pearl suddenly surged with an absolute power and broke through the entanglement of the silk ribbons, breaking free from within. If the true gentian great spell formation were to display its full power, it could completely cause each gentian pearl to be able to gather the power of the other 11 gentian pearls. Even though Lu Ping couldn't display the full power of the gentian great spell formation, it wasn't difficult for him to instantly borrow the power of the other gentian pearls to explode with 3 to 5 times his original power. Without waiting for Ma Chenxi to catch her breath, the surrounding spiritual qi that had been confined once again expanded, and another 3 giant white mist dragons had already collided with Ma Chenxi from different directions. Even though Ma Chenxi tried her best to dodge, she was still knocked into the canopy by one of the giant dragons. Even though the canopy activated countless horse mane ribbons to block the gentian pearl, the huge power contained within still shook Ma Chenxi's internal organs. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and in the space filled with white mist, it was like a red flower. Ma Chenxi suddenly shouted at the top of her lungs, "Come out! You come out! You are a Dharma adept, yet you come to make things difficult for me, and you still want to hide your head and show your tail. Do you still have the dignity of a Dharma adept?" Lu Ping heard Ma Chenxi's shout in the depths of the white mist, and his expression was slightly stunned. Ma Chenxi actually thought of himself as a Dharma adept. If it was really a Dharma adept who cast the natal formation, would Ma Chenxi be able to hold on until now? Ma Chenxi was frightened by the name of the natal formation and had forgotten the power that his father had displayed when he cast the natal formation. That level of power was enough to easily kill him now, and it was not enough to make him stubbornly resist for such a long time. Beside him, sixth brother Lei had long become numb. Sixth brother Lei was a lone thief, and he had wreaked havoc in the Central Plains training world for a long time. He had also been in the Western Wilderness, where humans and demons mixed together, and had seen a lot of things. He had seen the true elites of the late core forging stage and various sects, as well as the various demon clans, and he naturally knew the true strength of these true practitioners of the training world. Even if there were some differences between them, there would not be too much of a difference. However, today, he saw a person who was unreachable in his eyes, or in the eyes of other practitioners, being easily beaten by this unknown mission in front of him to the point of vomiting blood, and not even having the slightest ability to fight back. This had already broken sixth brother Lei's usual understanding. Ma Chenxi saw that the other party still did not reveal his identity under the situation where he had the upper hand, and knew that his previous provocation was completely useless. He originally thought that under the situation where he knew the other party's identity, he would use the last life-saving treasure that his father had passed down. As long as he escaped this disaster, the Tenma people would naturally crush the other party into minced meat. Unfortunately, the other party did not fall for it. Since this is the case, the mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. This Ma Si will remember today's gift. In the future, this Ma Si will naturally seek your advice again. After Ma Chenxi finished speaking, he threw another practitioner weapon into the sky. Lu Ping, who was in the dark, felt a huge spatial fluctuation coming over. The gentian formation that Lu Ping had set up was suddenly attacked by this fluctuation, and a huge, tearing feeling came over. It seemed that the space in the gentian formation had already established a connection with an unknown place. Ma Chenxi saw the pitch-black tunnel that was gradually forming above his head, and his previous panic immediately calmed down. He laughed loudly, "Ma Si, farewell." However, before Ma Chenxi's voice faded, the previous voice came from the depths of the white fog again. "Zhan Yu." When Ma Chenxi heard this cold voice now, her heart trembled, and before the spatial tunnel was completely formed, she wanted to plunge into it. However, Ma Chenxi's action was still a step too late. In fact, Ma Chenxi's premonition was also very accurate. Just after Lu Ping's cold shout, An invisible force suddenly came down from above, as if a mountain had fallen from the sky. In Ma Chinsi's panicked and disbelieving eyes, the spatial tunnel that was opened up by this well-deserved Dharma remarkable power was actually so easily crushed by this force. This was absolutely impossible. Ma Chinsi's wailing in her heart was completely expressed on her face. If it was other Dharma remarkable power, then it would be fine. Those remarkable powers were more or less accumulated from the core forging stage. When it was used by a Dharma adept, it was not impossible for it to be broken by a core forging stage adept. However, what kind of remarkable power was Ma Chinsi using now? This was the remarkable power of space, which was a practice area that a practitioner could only come into contact with after advancing to the Dharma stage. It had nothing to do with the core forging stage, and it was also a life-saving item that her father, the famous Tenma people elder of the Western Wilderness, had personally made, but it was actually so easily broken by someone. The spatial seal weapon in Ma Chinsi's hands was different from the escape seal weapon of the Taishan sect disciple that Lu Ping had encountered. Although the escape seal weapon also involved the remarkable power of space, it still needed the seal weapon as a medium to be used. Therefore, back then, as long as Lu Ping broke the escape seal weapon itself, then the Taishan sect disciple naturally had no hope of escaping. However, when Ma Chinsi's space seal weapon was used, there was no medium at all. It was purely a kind of remarkable power of space. During the process of using this kind of remarkable power, it was almost impossible for a core forging stage adept to interrupt. Even if a Dharma adept wanted to interfere, it would not be easy. This was also because the Tenma people's remarkable power was boundless. If it was any other Dharma adept, how could they make such a magical talisman? However, it was this magical talisman that was actually broken in front of Ma Chinsi. Chapter 796. Although Ma Chinsi had previously been beaten into a sorry state by the life-bonded formation set up by the mysterious cultivator, suffered serious injuries, suffered a crushing defeat, and lost confidence, he had never felt despair, because he had several trump cards on him, which were enough for him to escape with his life again and again in dangerous situations. However, as Ma Chinsi watched his trump cards being used one after another, they were all broken by the opponent one after another. This kind of psychological disparity finally caused this proud son of the Tenma people to fall into the abyss time and time again. But Ma Chinsi was still unable to stand firm at the edge of the abyss. After the space ability of the Tenma people sealed with a practitioner weapon was broken by Lu Ping, who was hidden in the white mist, Ma Chinsi finally felt his heart sink into the bottomless abyss. This is absolutely impossible. Ma Chinsi suddenly became furious. His entire person seemed to have become crazy. How is this possible? How is this possible? How can Father's space ability be broken? Ma Chinsi wanted to raise his hands up, as if to push away the invisible pressure above his head, but he did not have the strength to do so. Instead, his arms were pressed parallel to his shoulders by this pressure. Following Ma Chinsi's failure to raise his hands, a flying sword, a horn dagger, a fierce wind ability practitioner weapon, a jade talisman, and a pair of horseshoe-like magic treasures attacked at the same time as Ma Chinsi's hands. However, as they attacked upwards, they were all obstructed and pulled by an indescribable force, and had no choice but to change directions and fly in different directions. The pressure above his head did not lessen. Instead, it shook away the spirit energy that was previously sealed by the sea-suppressing divine art. Monstrous waves of spirit energy surged and shook the entire space formed by the Jinshin formation. Even though Lu Ping had always been rich and experienced, when he saw Ma Chinsi consecutively use 5 spirit-nurturing magic treasures and a Dharma resonance device, his mouth twitched in pain. None of these 5 spirit-nurturing level magic treasures condensed less than 8 restrictions. Among them, the flying sword, horn dagger, and the jade talisman were all top spirit-nurturing magic treasures condensed 9 restrictions. Even though the pair of horseshoe-like magic treasures only condensed 8 restrictions, after combining these 2 magic treasures, their power was comparable to top spirit-nurturing magic treasures. Ma Chinsi still wanted to struggle, but a milky white light suddenly appeared from the depths of the white mist and shone on Ma Chinsi's body. Ma Chinsi suddenly felt as if his entire body, including his blood, had stopped at this moment. Then, Ma Chinsi's pupils suddenly widened. Even though he could not show any expression on his face, his eyes revealed a sense of defeat. The three gentian pearls faded away from their misty bodies and flashed with an undulating cold light as they smashed onto Ma Chinsi's body, who was imprisoned by the gentian formation diagram. With a crisp sound, an invisible barrier shattered around Ma Chinsi's body. Then, three bloody holes appeared on Ma Chinsi's body, and her entire body was thrown backwards, as if she had turned into a bloody gourd. Lu Ping's eyes narrowed slightly. She actually didn't die. Lu Ping watched carefully. Just at the instant when the three gentian pearls were about to smash onto Ma Chinsi's body, jade pendant on Ma Chinsi's waist suddenly shattered. Then, an invisible barrier formed around Ma Chinsi's body. Although the three gentian pearls shattered this barrier, their own strength also dissipated quite a bit. In addition, this Ma Chinsi clearly had quite a bit of cultivation in her physical body, so this strike of Lu Ping's that was determined to succeed did not take Ma Chinsi's life. But at this time, Ma Chinsi was also an arrow at the end of its flight. No matter if it was himself or Lu Ping, they both knew that Ma Chinsi's death was only in the hands of Lu Ping's thoughts. Ma Chinsi disregarded the injuries all over his body and struggled to prop up his broken body. He fiercely breathed 2 breaths towards the depths of the white fog, and then said weakly, "Your Excellency's methods are good. It's just that at this stage, Your Excellency is still not willing to show yourself? At least let me die knowing a ghost." Perhaps Ma Chinsi had reached the final radiance of the setting sun. The injuries on his body were almost incurable, but for some reason, his eyes emitted light in an instant, as if he was waiting for something. The opponent's attack did not arrive at the first instant. Ma Chinsi's eyebrows relaxed, as if he felt the opponent's hesitation. So he opened his mouth to say something, but when he raised his head, he saw another 3 meteors flying towards his head, chest, and abdomen. The opponent was still not willing to reveal his identity. Ma Chinsi's expression suddenly became ferocious. He no longer cared about the fresh blood flowing all over his body and roared, "Since it's like this, even if I die, I will not let you have an easy time." Looking at the gentian pearl flying towards him, Ma Chinsi actually faced it head-on, and then shouted a word in a heavy tone, "Explode." Lu Ping, who was hiding in the depths of the clouds, felt his heart skip a beat for no reason when Ma Chinsi said the word "explode." Then his expression changed. He saw that among the few magic treasures that Ma Chinsi had just used, the flying sword, the flying dagger, and the pair of horseshoe-like magic treasures suddenly exploded. A huge spiritual energy storm rose up, carrying with it an unparalleled force, and mixed with countless magic treasure fragments, rushed towards all directions of the formation space, continuously tearing the space apart. Countless white fog dissipated, and Lu Ping's life source gentian formation was almost completely torn apart under the self-explosion of the 4 magic treasures. Not good. The white jade lotus seat under Lu Ping's feet shone with a holy light, and then the lotus seat quickly expanded. Petals flew out from the lotus seat, and each petal was engraved with countless runes, turning into scattered formation diagrams, and like patches to make up for the space, they hung around the gentian formation. The gentian pearl no longer had the white fog accompanying it, and the 12 pearls shining with 5-colored light turned into 12 huge stars embedded in the gentian space, echoing with the expanding formation diagrams. The self-explosion of the 4 spirit-nurturing magic treasures caused Lu Ping's gentian formation to be on the verge of collapse. Even though Lu Ping used all his methods to stabilize the gentian formation that was about to collapse, the white fog of spiritual energy in the formation space was swept away by the storm of self-explosion. Looking at Ma Chinsi, who was staring at him in a daze from afar, Lu Ping's heart was filled with gloom. Those who could improve their cultivation to this level were definitely not ordinary people. Not to mention, Ma Chinsi was a direct disciple of the Pegasus clan. Not only did she have an endless array of mystic treasures and means, but her willpower was also top-notch. How could she easily give up in a desperate situation? If Lu Ping had thought that killing Ma Chinxi this time was already foolproof, or if he had gone out to meet Ma Chinxi with the intention of ridiculing her, then the self-explosion of the few spirit-nurturing magic treasures would definitely have gone towards Lu Ping. Even if Lu Ping did not show up, the other party's self-explosion of the spirit-nurturing magic treasure was not to perish together, but to escape after tearing apart the formation space. If it wasn't for Lu Ping's monstrous cultivation, how could this Gentian formation withstand the self-explosion of 4 spirit-nurturing magic treasures, and 2 of them were even top-notch spirit-nurturing magic treasures with 9 restrictions? Lu Ping was in the formation space, but this time, he no longer had anything to hide his tracks. Moreover, in the dangerous situation just now, Lu Ping really did not have the time to care about his own tracks. It's you. Ma Chinxi's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Ma Chinxi had many guesses about the person in charge of the Gentian formation, but he never thought that the person who could so easily kill him would be the North Sea cultivator Lu Xinping, who was on par with him in the chaotic battle 5 years ago. How could it be? How could it be you? Ha 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 ha. Ma Chinxi's sharp laughter carried endless bitterness. It's actually you. It's actually you. Lu Ping looked expressionlessly at Ma Chinxi, who was about to fall into madness. The space of the Gentian formation rapidly shrank behind the 2 of them, and 12 Gentian beads fell from the sky, surrounding Ma Chinxi. A white jade lotus platform slowly rose from under Lu Ping's feet, covering Ma Chinxi's head with a ray of light. Ma Chinxi was instantly unable to move. Why? Ma Chinxi calmed down at this time. You're a North Sea cultivator. Even if you're extremely talented, you're still just one person. If I die, the Tenma people will definitely know, and then you'll be hunted down by the entire Pegasus clan. Even the sect behind you won't be able to protect you. Do you know the Green Fox? The Green Fox? Ma Chinxi looked at Lu Ping in confusion and said, You're clearly a human. The Green Fox clan may have been defeated by me, but what does that have to do with you? Without waiting for Lu Ping to answer, Ma Chinxi suddenly had a look of realization, and with a face full of ridicule, she said, I understand. I understand. Although the Green Fox clan leader died back then, her mixed blood daughter was on the run. I didn't think that you, the outstanding talent of the world, could not escape from the Green Fox's seductive charm, and was willing to be a woman's guest. Lu Ping was helpless at the other party's rich imagination, but Lu Ping did not want to drag things out. Although the other party was currently under his control, Lu Ping did not know if the other party had any other tricks up her sleeves. Once the cultivators of the Pegasus clan at the source of the river received the news and rushed over, he would not be able to tangle with the other party in his current state. Clang! The autumn water sword was like a pool of autumn water, held in Lu Ping's hand and about to slash horizontally. Ma Chinxi suddenly shouted, If I die, my father will definitely know. You can just wait for your death and the destruction of your clan. Lu Ping looked at the 4th young master of the Tenma people, who only had fear left in his eyes, and said mockingly, If you die, your father will probably know immediately, but if you want to find out who the murderer is through the blockade of the river source, even if the Tenma people grow up to be real spirits, they do not have the ability to do so. Ma Chinxi opened his mouth to say something, but Lu Ping did not want him to make any more noise, and only chopped off his head with a swing of his sword. A golden pill shone with a dazzling golden light, and came out of Ma Chinxi's body, and then it flew away. Lu Ping smiled and said, This is wishful thinking. How can I fall behind like this? The white jade lotus platform shone brightly, and the 12 gentian pearls rotated, locking the direction of the golden pill's escape. This first-class pill suddenly trembled, and looked like it was about to self-destruct, unwilling to fall into the hands of Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping wasn't going to give it the chance to do so. His divine will surged into the golden core. Although the golden core was now a grade 1 golden core, it was still no match for a divine will that was even stronger than an early Dharma stage cultivator. The spiritual nature of the golden pill was quickly destroyed by Lu Ping's divine thought, and a first-grade golden pill, which was at the peak of the core forging stage and had condensed the essence of the blood of the Pegasus clan, was kept by Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping's originally calm expression could no longer be maintained, and a mouthful of blood surged out from Lu Ping's mouth. Chapter 797. Lu Ping had calculated everything about Ma Chenxi, but the sudden explosion of the four spirit-nurturing magic treasures was still beyond Lu Ping's expectations. When a magic treasure reached the level of spirit nurturing, its spirituality had already greatly increased. Wanting to explode it was definitely not an easy task, and how could a normal person have the determination to explode a spirit-nurturing magic treasure? Although Lu Ping had used all his strength to suppress the destructive power of the magic treasure's explosion, so that the life gentian formation was not damaged, but Lu Ping's internal organs were truly shaken by the magic treasure's explosion. Even if Lu Ping's physical body had been strengthened several times, under this level of power, he was still seriously injured. He just resisted and did not show it in front of Ma Chenxi. After killing Ma Chenxi, Lu Ping finally could no longer suppress the injuries in his body. A mouthful of blood rushed up from his stomach, and a sweet taste came from his throat. In front of his body, there was already a cloud of blood mist. Lu Ping did not dare to stay here for long. The momentum caused by the explosion of the four spirit-nurturing magic treasures was not something that Lu Ping's gentian formation could suppress. Presumably, it had already attracted the attention of people with ulterior motives. Moreover, at this time, Lu Ping still did not know whether Samling was alive or dead. He had to rush over to rescue Samling as soon as possible. Although he had set up a plan and secretly pushed the major powers of the river source to meet because of the Flood Dragon Bloodstone, in his view, there would definitely be a chaotic battle between the two sides, and whether Samling could escape or not would depend on the degree of the chaotic battle between the two sides, as well as Samling's own luck. He used the spirit sealing box to seal the first-grade gold core of the Tima people, and then held a canopy jade talisman in his hand. This was the only magic treasure that was not damaged by the impact of Ma Chenxi's explosion, and it was a spirit-nurturing level defensive magic treasure. It was a pity that this magic treasure could not be revealed in front of others. Lu Ping reached out and took Ma Chenxi's storage magic treasure into his hand. Then, a black flame was thrown out by Lu Ping. Ma Chenxi's corpse turned into ashes in an instant, falling into the meadow's water network to become fertilizer. Lu Ping threw a crystal-clear pill into his mouth. This was a pill that Lu Ping had refined using the spirit monster peach, and was the best healing medicine in Lu Ping's hands. In just a moment, it cooperated with the qi in Lu Ping's body to suppress the injury. Sixth Lei saw Lu Ping vomit blood from the serious injury, and his eyes flashed with a sharp light. However, Sixth Lei didn't know what had happened. 666 Lu Ping didn't know what had, but seemed to remember, and the Sixth Lei thought, and the Ling Ping's Qian. Lu Ping slowly turned around, as if he didn't notice Sixth Brother Lei's strange behavior. His slightly pale face revealed a faint smile as he said, "How was it? Damn it."
Sixth Lei cursed, then stood up and bowed.
"Lady greets young master." Lu Ping smiled with satisfaction. "You still have some brains. You didn't take advantage of the situation. I owe you a favor."
Sixth Lei rolled his eyes.
"If I took advantage of the situation, I'm afraid I would be like Ma Chenxi, crushed to ashes by you. I still want to live for a few more years, and still wonder if I can break through to the Dharma stage in the future. I don't want to die in your hands now." Lu Ping didn't mind. He just smiled and didn't say anything. Sixth Lei took out a jade bottle from his bosom and poured out a bluish-purple pill the size of a thumb. He looked at Lu Ping suspiciously. "Did you really refine this? Are you really an alchemy grandmaster?" After that, he didn't wait for Lu Ping to answer. He threw the pill into his mouth and swallowed it. He pointed to the direction where Ma Chenxi stood before and said, "That's a sign of allegiance. Now that I have swallowed the pill you gave me in advance, can I rest assured now?" Lu Ping still didn't speak. He just smiled and stretched out his hand. A space portal formed in front of Lu Ping. "Sure enough, there's something strange. No wonder even Ma Chenxi, this bastard, was tricked by you." Sixth Lei muttered. He lowered his head and entered the space portal, entering the House of Gold. Lu Ping breathed a sigh of relief, then wrapped his body with the cloud-light five elements robe. He turned into a cloud of water vapor and constantly changed its shape in the air. He rushed in the direction of the pool where Xie Tianyang was previously found. Lu Ping had to rush to the scene of the battle as soon as possible. In addition to saving Samling, there was another reason, which was to show his existence in front of others. Ma Chinsi died in his hands. Now the Pegasus clan should have already known through means such as the soul lamp, but because of the obstruction of the formation at the source of the river, they couldn't do anything. However, among the cultivators of the same level who were qualified to kill Ma Chinsi, if there was a ranking, Lu Ping, who fought with Ma Chinsi, Xie Tianyang, and Li Tong, would definitely be on the list. Perhaps because of his sudden appearance, he would receive more attention from the Tima people. The news of Ma Chinsi's death was still unknown to the cultivators at the source of the river, and with Sixth Lei taking the blame for him, Lu Ping only needed to show his means in front of others to prove that he was not injured. Originally, Lu Ping thought that if he used the natal gentian formation when no one was paying attention, not only could he successfully kill Ma Chinsi, but he would also only consume some qi at most. Once this plan succeeded, who would believe that Lu Ping would be able to kill a top-core Forging Realm cultivator like Ma Chinsi without sustaining any injuries? In this way, the suspicion on Lu Ping naturally lessened a lot. However, Lu Ping still underestimated Ma Chinsi's means, and the power of the natal gentian formation with his current cultivation was far less than what he expected. Under Ma Chinsi's desperate means, Lu Ping was inevitably seriously injured. This was a bit of a loss. Although Lu Ping's qi was several times faster than cultivators of the same level because of the 10,000 Wonder Dew, whether it was recovery or healing, such a serious injury could not be healed in such a short time, even with the spirit pill that Lu Ping had specially refined. Lu Ping flew as fast as he could, but his expression kept changing. In the end, he seemed to have made up his mind. He flipped his palm and a bottle carved from black jade appeared in his hand. He poured out a pellet that emitted a strange black light and spun it in his hand. This time it was really a big loss, but in order to escape from the pursuit of the Tenma people in the Western Wasteland, he could not care so much. Throwing the black pill into his mouth, Lu Ping suddenly felt a stream of fire burning down his throat. After a moment, his whole face turned red, and his body was surrounded by hot air. Lu Ping suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a black mist. His qi surged all over his body, and he seemed to be able to hear the sound of his blood flowing like a great river in his veins. The light under his feet instantly sped up, and Lu Ping seemed to have recovered his original strength because of the black pill. All of the cultivators from the human and demon races who were fighting each other were shocked by the loud noise just now. However, some of the cultivators quickly took advantage of the opportunity to deal a heavy blow to some of the slower cultivators. With that, all of them forgot about the source of the loud noise and fell into a chaotic battle once again. Furthermore, compared to before, the battle became even more intense. Only a few of the more determined cultivators were still fighting their opponents, but their minds were clearly not on the battle. Ma Zhongshan was fighting with Zhang Jiming. When he inadvertently looked to the side, he happened to see a breeze suddenly blowing in the pool of water under his feet. A little girl with bright eyes and cruel teeth suddenly appeared among several groups of people who were fighting. Several cultivators of the Tima people who were fighting with the human race cultivators were suddenly injured by the little girl's sneak attack, and then they were besieged by the human race cultivators who were fighting with them. Ma Zhongshan's eyes lit up. He was one of the cultivators of the Tenma people who found the 3 green sea snakes. He saw clearly that this little girl who suddenly appeared was one of the 3 green sea snakes. Ma Zhongshan attacked with all his strength, and for a moment, Zhang Jiming was forced to retreat. Zhang Jiming was not surprised, but happy. He had already prepared several means and was about to counterattack, but unexpectedly, the opponent in front of him suddenly turned into a light and retreated. Zhang Jiming was stunned. When he turned around, he saw Ma Zhongshan suddenly pouncing on a cultivator of his race who was obviously at a disadvantage. Zhang Jiming sneered. At this time, you still want to save the cultivators of your race? Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Zhang Jiming pushed the magic treasure in his hand, and the magical power reverse heaven and earth of the Western Wilderness Palace was displayed, and directly aimed at Ma Zhongshan's back. At this time, Zhang Jiming finally realized that the target of Ma Zhongshan's attack was actually a little girl of 12 or 13 years old. Zhang Jiming immediately came to his senses and secretly cursed, "Oh no, I actually let this person get ahead of me. That girl is most likely one of the 3 green sea snakes." At this time, Zhang Jiming wanted to intervene and snatch the girl, but it was already a step too late. He simply mobilized his true essence, and the power of the magic treasure aimed at Ma Zhongshan's back increased by 30%. Ma Zhongshan had just managed to condense a low-grade 8th-grade golden core in the sacred settling lake, so his confidence had skyrocketed. He had thought that sneak attacking the little girl in front of him would be a piece of cake. Unexpectedly, although the little girl's cultivation was only at the 7th stage core forging stage, her strength was very strong. The little girl suddenly turned around and glanced coldly at Ma Zhongshan. She suddenly shook the long whip in her hand, and it suddenly turned into a spiral in midair. Then, the surrounding spiritual energy gathered to form a vortex, blocking Ma Zhongshan's sneak attack in one fell swoop. Ma Zhongshan's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but he saw that the little girl was still somewhat unable to do what she wanted. She took a few steps back, and then her body turned into a thin wind, wanting to escape with Ma Zhongshan's strength. Ma Zhongshan sneered and was about to chase after her, but unexpectedly, he saw a fish like sword light cross the sky and encircle the dissipating thin wind in one fell swoop. Ma Zhongshan's expression changed, and he saw that Li Tong had unknowingly rushed over. Ma Zhongshan didn't dare to fight with Li Tong, and was about to retreat with some unwillingness, but he saw a wave of fire burning the sword-light fish that filled the sky into grilled fish. Xie Tianyang caught up, stretched out his hand, and a giant hand made of true essence condensed in midair, and grabbed the thin wind that was about to take the opportunity to escape. Chapter 798. In fact, this lake had already been sealed off by the cultivators who had rushed over, cutting off its connection with the other water veins. Just after Lu Bai's appearance attracted Li Tong and Xie Tianyang, on the other side of the lake, Lu Hai and Lu Linger also climbed out of the lake, taking advantage of the chaotic battle to escape to the periphery. However, the initiators of this chaotic battle were actually Lu Bai and the other two. Although Lu Bai wanted to use a trick to lure the tigers away from the mountains, how many tigers could she lure away? These cultivators who were formed in the cultivation world all year round were all extremely intelligent. Lu Bai's little trick made more people focus their attention on the lake. They didn't dare to fight with Li Tong, Xie Tianyang and the others, but couldn't they pick up their leftovers? Lu Hai roared. The mysterious halberd in his hand slashed forward, sending an incoming core forging level 8 cultivator flying. The Koi clan cultivator, who was vomiting blood in midair, had a look of disbelief in his eyes. Lu Hai's strength made the surrounding cultivators who wanted to take advantage of the situation hesitate for no reason. Although this green sea snake only had the cultivation of core forging level 7, its strength was indeed extraordinary. If they could capture it in one fell swoop, it would be fine. Once they got into a fight, whoever attacked first would most likely become a gift to the later. Although the surrounding cultivators did not attack immediately, Lu Hai and Lu Linger could not stay here forever. The two rushed out one after the other, so it was inevitable that they would bump into the cultivators who had already surrounded them. Lu Hai's body was surrounded by water mist, gradually wrapping Lu Hai and Lu Linger in it. Lu Linger did not say a word. Her pair of small hands suddenly rubbed. The surrounding water mist gradually condensed into a huge ice boat, rushing towards the encirclement. The two cultivators at the front were still Koi clan demon cultivators. When they saw that their clan's cultivator was injured, they had already stepped forward to intercept Lu Hai and Lu Hai. These two cultivators were confident that the surrounding cultivators who wanted to take advantage of the Koi clan would have to carefully consider whether they could bear the anger of the Koi clan. Lu Hai stood at the bow of the ship, brandishing the profound halberd in his hand like a sea dragon, wandering around the giant ice ship, blocking all kinds of magic treasures flying around. However, Lu Hai had just advanced to the 7th level of the core forging realm. Under the siege of at least the 8th level of the core forging realm, even with Lu Linger's help with the ice ship, how long could he last? As expected of the Green Sea Snake, the #1 Flood Dragon Bloodline Demon Clan. Indeed. These two kids have obviously cultivated for less than 200 years, but their cultivation has already reached core forging stage 7. I'm afraid they are geniuses even among the Green Sea Snakes. That's right. Then these three kids must have a distinguished status among the Green Sea Snakes. If we make things difficult for them this time, how can we stop the Green Sea Snakes when they come looking for us? Hee, the law does not punish the masses. Let's all attack together. Will the Green Sea Snakes kill us all? That's hard to say. It's rumored that the Green Sea Snakes are used to protecting their own people. They have done many things such as exterminating a race and destroying a family. If these three little guys are really the descendants of the Green Sea Snakes, they will suffer a great loss in our hands. Maybe the Green Sea Snakes will rush to the Middle Earth and create rivers of blood. Humph, don't be alarmist. Don't forget that the Tima people, Koi Carp Clan, Western Wilderness Palace, and even Ziyang Palace snatched the Flood Dragon Bloodstone from them today. Even if they want to take the blame, it won't be up to us. Besides, although the Green Sea Snakes are powerful, Ziyang Palace is not weak. If they join hands, won't the Green Sea Snakes have to obediently retreat to the East Sea? That's right, that's right. Hee, there's no need for Ziyang Palace to join hands. If the Green Sea Snakes want to enter the Middle Earth, they will have to pass through the Crystal Palace first. Oh, I forgot about this. The Crystal Palace is said to be as famous as the 5 holy lands of the Middle Earth. If the Green Sea Snakes want to enter the Middle Earth, the Crystal Palace will be their biggest obstacle. Don't talk nonsense. Let's capture these two little devils and get the Flood Dragon Bloodstone first. The disturbing words constantly passed into the ears of the stubborn Lu Hai. At this time, Lu Hai was already powerless in the face of the crowd's siege. Fortunately, many of the cultivators were unwilling to bear the name of the murderer of the Green Sea Snakes. Although many of them had the strength of the 9th level of Core Forging Realm and the peak of Core Forging Realm, they did not kill the two. They just constantly consumed the two's Jinqi and magic power, waiting for the two to run out of oil to be captured. Second brother, what should we do? Lu Linger tried her best to maintain the ice ship, helping Lu Hai rush out. However, more and more cultivators surrounded them. Lu Linger was getting more and more desperate. She could not help but ask Lu Hai, who was standing on the bow of the ship, trying his best to resist the attacks of the crowd, when will father come? Shut up. Lu Hai's lips squirmed, but his voice passed into the ears of Lu Linger. Linger, even if the three of us are captured, we can't reveal any information about father. Then, this figure suddenly accelerated, and by the time Li Tong and Xie Tianyang discovered it, the figure had already flashed 400 feet away. In the sky, there was only a blood-red trail left behind. It was obvious that the cultivator who had intercepted them had used an extremely brilliant secret technique that consumed his own blood as the price. Sixth brother Lei, you're courting death. Li Tong immediately recognized this famous assassin who had been hiding in the western wilderness for all these years. A hint of surprise flashed in Xie Tianyang's eyes, and he heard another roar coming from not far away. Sixth brother Lei, where is my fourth young master? When Ma Zhongshan saw that not only did sixth brother Lei not die, he even ran over and scathed to intercept Li Tong and Xie Tianyang's victory. Although he felt carefree in his heart when he thought about it, Ma Chinsi was lured away by sixth brother Lei. Now that sixth brother Lei was safe and sound, but Ma Chinsi did not appear. A bad feeling suddenly surged in Ma Zhongshan's heart. He immediately opened his mouth and shouted. However, sixth brother Lei's layer of light did not stop at all, and immediately crashed into the encirclement that was besieging Lu Hai and Lu Ling. The sudden incident caused the many cultivators who were besieging Lu Hai and Lu Ling to be in chaos, and Li Tong, who was behind them, blocked the way. At this moment, a magnificent sword chi suddenly rose in the opposite direction of sixth brother Lei. Li Tong and Xie Tianyang, who had slowed down for some reason, were suddenly startled. The flying swords flying around the two suddenly stiffened, and then the flying swords respectively emitted a golden and purple halo, and then returned to normal. The other cultivators who were controlling the flying swords suddenly found that the flying swords in their hands suddenly trembled uncontrollably. Everyone channeled their true essence to suppress the flying swords in their hands. The faces of the experienced cultivators changed greatly, and they exclaimed, 10,000 swords returned to origin. Is someone going to use one sword to break 10,000 techniques? Everyone turned around and saw that the towering sword chi in the sky suddenly turned into a Milky Way that descended from the sky. It surged towards the crowd with the momentum of 10,000 men, and the cultivators who were besieging the ice ship were scattered in all directions. Everyone retreated, and even Li Tong and Xie Tianyang could only choose to avoid the opponent's attack. In the blink of an eye, they saw that the giant ice ship was strangely going against the current of the celestial Sword River, sailing towards the place where the Sword River fell. Moreover, it seemed that the giant ice ship was constantly trembling, as if it was trying to get rid of something, but in the end, it was in vain. At the end of the Sword River, a golden door suddenly opened, swallowing the giant ice ship. The Sword River suddenly disappeared, and the cultivators were in a sorry state. A long laugh came from the distance, and a figure appeared in the sky. When Xie Tianyang and the others looked over, they sighed in their hearts. It really is him. He took advantage of it. Chapter 799. Brother Lu. Taking it without saying anything is a bit unsightly. Li Tong's complexion was actually even uglier. Seeing the duck that was already in his hands fly away, how could a proud son of heaven like Li Tong swallow this? Li Tong's eyes could clearly see that under the power of such a powerful swordsmanship, sixth brother Lei, who had kidnapped the green sea snake, would definitely die. In this way, wouldn't the flood dragon bloodstones that the three green sea snakes found eventually fall into the hands of the person in front of him? Li Tong's words were not only accusing the person in front of him of being too greedy, but also inciting others to be dissatisfied with the result of a chaotic battle. If the person who came was not Lu Ping, who else could it be? It was precisely because the person who came was Lu Ping that when he captured the other two green sea snakes in one fell swoop, the crowd did not go forward to beat him up. What a joke. 5 years ago, Lu Ping fought with Li Tong, Ma Chenxi, and Xie Tianyang and did not fall into a disadvantageous position. Everyone had long regarded him as an expert on the same level as Li Tong, Xie Tianyang, and the others, so how would they dare to find trouble with him? It was just that the flood dragon bloodstones were of great importance, so it was not up to Lu Ping to monopolize them. If everyone really joined forces, Lu Ping could only flee at the sight of the wind. Moreover, this seemed to be inconsistent with cultivator Zhenling's request to help Zhenling in the Central Plains. Brother Li must be joking. These two green sea snakes were captured alive by me, so they should belong to me. Lu Ping naturally would not compromise just because of the other party's words. His figure floated more than 100 feet away from the crowd, and the light under his feet did not extinguish. Obviously, he had made up his mind to immediately escape once someone came forward to snatch it. Ha ha, Brother Lu. Not only do we admire your cultivation and strength, but your courage also leaves us in the dust. Otherwise, how could you kill one of the 3 emerald sea spirit snakes on the spot? Xie Tianyang leisurely walked forward from behind Li Tong and stood side by side with Li Tong. He smiled and casually said to Lu Ping in the distance, Brother Xie's joke is not funny at all. Lu Ping paused for a moment, his face filled with displeasure, and said, Although I haven't been in the western wilderness for a long time, I still know the assassin bandit sixth brother Lei who roams the Central Plains. Although it is a great coincidence that this person died under my sword technique, it is still something to be happy about. However, I don't know how this sixth brother Lei managed to get involved with the green sea snakes. Could it be that Brother Xie thinks that this sixth brother Lei is a green sea snake? That would be a huge joke. Xie Tianyang was not annoyed by Lu Ping's mockery. He just smiled and said, "So Brother Lu doesn't know." Just when Brother Lu was using your sword technique, this sixth Brother Lei took advantage of the moment when Brother Li and I were preoccupied and snatched a green sea snake from our hands. Under the pursuit of Brother Li and I, this sixth Brother Lei was in a panic and didn't know where to run. Coincidentally, Brother Lu made a move, and this sixth Brother Lei ran into Brother Lu's heaven-connecting sword river. Lu Ping suddenly understood, and then his expression changed greatly. He knew that Xie Tianyang and Li Tong wouldn't lie to him in front of so many people, so this sixth Brother Lei must have a green sea snake on his body that died under his sword technique. Seeing Brother Lu's expression change from green to red, Xie Tianyang knew that the threat of the green sea snakes was obviously far more important in the hearts of the overseas cultivators than the cultivators of the Central Plains. This Lu Xinping killed a green sea snake. Although it was an unintentional act, in the future, the green sea snakes may be wary of the power of the Central Plains, but they definitely wouldn't mind turning the North Sea upside down. Brother Lu, we all saw it with our own eyes. Sixth Brother Lei killed that sixth Brother Lei by mistake. If Brother Lu can take out the Flood Dragon Bloodstone and share it with everyone, we naturally won't say anything about today's matter. Even if the news is leaked in the future, we will stand up for Brother Lu and say that the green sea snake was mistakenly killed by Brother Lu. What do you think, Brother Lu? The one who spoke was Li Tong. Not to mention that his words were too childish, the hidden intention was even more vicious. It was obvious that he wanted to force Lu Ping to submit. Lu Ping's divine sense moved. He had already noticed that there were cultivators moving from the periphery to his back. It was obvious that they had decided to besiege him. Right now, Li Tong and the others were just stalling for time. It was just that they didn't expect that Lu Ping's divine sense would be so strange. All of their actions were already clearly seen by Lu Ping's divine sense. Since you discovered that the Flood Dragon Bloodstone was obtained by the 3 green sea snakes, you should know how many Flood Dragon Bloodstones there are in total, right? Lu Ping asked unhurriedly. Naturally, we know. There are a total of 7 Flood Dragon Bloodstones. They should have been obtained by my Pegasus clan, but they were snatched away by those 3 people. Ma Zhongshan saw that Ma Chenxi still hadn't arrived yet. He was very anxious in his heart. If Ma Chenxi couldn't arrive, the Tenma people wouldn't have a top expert as their trump card. If they were to compete with the Koi clan and Xie Tianyang, they would inevitably fall into a disadvantageous position. At the very least, they had to make the situation chaotic. They couldn't let people like Xie Tianyang and Li Tong get it so easily. Lu Ping saw where Ma Zhongshan and Zhang Jiming were standing and their eager expressions. How could he not guess what the two wanted to do? With a shake of his hands, 2 Flood Dragon Blood Stones were suddenly thrown out by him. Lu Ping let out a long laugh and said, "If that's the case, then this Lu will follow the principle of splitting everything in half. I'll leave 2 for everyone. I'll go down now." The light under Lu Ping's feet surged, and he fled to the back. Many cultivators wanted to intercept him, but they were attracted by the 2 bloody lights that streaked across the sky. They didn't know whether they should go forward to snatch the 2 stones or intercept Lu Ping. During this moment of hesitation, Lu Ping's figure had already fled 200 feet away. The cultivators who had planned to surround Lu Ping were caught off guard and were scattered by Lu Ping's pair of flying swords. The 2 bloodstones thrown out by Lu Ping did not go towards Li Tong and Xie Tianyang. Instead, they flew towards Ma Zhongshan and Zhang Jiming, who were beside them. Ma Zhongshan and Zhang Jiming were overjoyed. They hurriedly flew forward to grab the 2 bloodstones in their hands. Immediately after, they felt a cold wind coming from behind them. 2 extremely strong, killing intents directly penetrated their hearts. Li Tong, Xie Tianyang, why aren't you 2 asking Lu Xinping for the bloodstones in his hands? Why are you stealing ours? Despicable. Li Tong coldly said, "Stealing from you 2 is easy." Xie Tianyang's face was filled with helplessness. However, the flying sword in his hand did not have the slightest helplessness. It slashed towards Zhang Jiming's left hand that was holding the Flood Dragon Bloodstone. Clearly, he had the same idea as Li Tong. Lu Ping's idea was very simple. He wanted to abandon the 2 Flood Dragon Bloodstones to cause chaos in the crowd. He wanted to take advantage of the mutual vigilance and distrust between the crowd to dissolve their encirclement and allow himself to escape unscathed. Not only did Li Tong and Xie Tianyang understand this idea, even Zhang Jiming and Ma Zhongshan could see it clearly. However, this was a blatant plot. The four of them were helpless and could only rush forward to snatch it. As Li Tong had said, Lu Xianping was indeed a tough nut to crack. They did not have the confidence to snatch the 2 flood dragon bloodstones from him. Following Li Tong and Xie Tianyang's actions, the cultivators from the Heavenly Horse Clan and the cultivators from the Western Desolate Temple naturally knew that Ma Zhongshan was not their opponent. One after another, they rushed forward to help. On the other side, the cultivators from the Koi clan were not willing to be outdone. The motley crew that Zhang Jiming had gathered also had the idea of fishing in troubled waters. Several forces suddenly fell into a chaotic battle. Lu Ping continuously used ruthless methods. He successively killed 2 8th-layer core forging cultivators, severely injured 4 8th and 9th-layer core forging cultivators, and forced back 2 peak core forging cultivators. Finally, the rest of the cultivators were intimidated and no longer dared to encircle him. Lu Ping faced the sky and let out a long laugh as he broke out of the encirclement. A moment later, he disappeared into the fog array surrounding the river source. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.